My fusion system. Fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapters 435 to 440. Chapter 435. Let's have a child. What happened? As the man with silver-green hair barged in, the students in the Royal Academy's dining hall cried out in alarm. He seems to be from the Winter Nation. He also participated in the Royal Academy's competition before. I recognized him. His name is Harold. Someone whispered. They recognized the man. Why does Harold look different from when he was in the match? This Harold looks much more terrifying. Besides, didn't the people from the Winter Nation already leave the capital? Why are they here? Are they so dissatisfied that they are here to take revenge? More people were puzzled by that Harold. Logically speaking, the people from the Winter Nation had already left the capital. There were even people who saw them leave with their own eyes. Even if they were dissatisfied with their defeat and wanted to take revenge, they should not have come to take revenge on Watson. Watson had defeated Augustus and Nia and was publicly acknowledged as the strongest genius of the kingdom. Some people even guessed that Watson's strength had already surpassed Sword St. Reed and was the strongest in the kingdom. Was it not a death sentence to challenge Watson? While those people were discussing it, Watson also reacted. He flashed behind Rose Weiser, raised his hand to block the oncoming wind blades, and stared coldly at the person in front of him who looked like Harold. He could feel that the man in front of him contained the power of a god. It was obviously not Harold. After all, he had clearly seen Harold's death with the Book of Wisdom. Hey, what are you doing? If you want anything, then come at me. Don't make a move on the person I want to rope in. Watson, you can't even take care of yourself, but you still want to take care of others? Agaras, who looked like Harold, chuckled. Gods like him thought that humans were no different from ants. When he attacked Watson, he noticed that Rose Weiser was right in front of Watson, but so what? Would humans count the number of ants crushed under their feet when they walked? As he spoke, Agaras stretched out a finger at Watson. Kingdom of Storms. A divine kingdom engulfed in the storm, floating in layers of clouds and high in the sky, appeared with a silver-green gale. The silver-green shell outside the divine kingdom was golden and glorious, flashing with a color that made people's hearts tremble. The moment the divine kingdom appeared in the storm, the dome of the entire restaurant instantly shattered. The gale wrapped the fragments of the restaurant's dome and flew into the sky. Not good. Get down quickly. Many students in the restaurant reacted and cowered with their hands on their heads. Some even went under the table. The scene was chaotic. Agaras, who was surrounded by the strong wind, opened his mouth, which was full of fangs, and said proudly, "Watson, time to get crushed into pieces." Agar's divine kingdom gradually descended. Its appearance could be seen clearly. It was an enormous ship-shaped divine kingdom. However, that ship was thousands of times more majestic than the largest and most gorgeous ship in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. It was like a space warship sailing in the galaxy. In the kingdom's mythology, Agaras was the god who controlled the wind and navigation, so his kingdom had dual authority. In just an instant, the ship-shaped divine kingdom arrived above Watson's head and was about to crush Watson's body into minced meat. Rose Weiser, who was not far from Watson, sat down on the ground. She stared blankly at the ship above her head and could not stop her body from trembling. The wind had long torn her clothes and scarf, and even her face was covered in blood. That divine kingdom formed purely by the storm was not something that a human could resist. The divine kingdom fell to the ground with a loud boom, and a large hole was created. To be precise, a hole was forcefully blown out by the storm. The soil on the ground had not yet touched the divine kingdom, but it had already been turned into dust by the storm. Watson and Rose, who were in the middle, were both pressed downward. The other students in the restaurant, who were a little further away, were also pushed more than 100 meters away by the strong wind, but they did not die. They covered their bodies as they lay on the ground, bleeding non-stop due to the flying debris. Even the entire Royal Academy was shaking. "It's all over. I will take everything from you." Agaras extended his right hand toward the huge divine kingdom in front of him. He wanted to use the divine kingdom to hold Watson up. When there was no one around, he would absorb the thing he needed from Watson's body. However, before he could make a move, a loud boom suddenly came from under the divine kingdom that suppressed Watson. Boom! Along with the sound, long snake-like cracks appeared on the golden surface of the divine kingdom. Watson's head was covered in blood. He carried Rose Wiser and walked out of the divine kingdom from within those cracks. Compared to Watson's disheveled appearance, Rose Wiser did not seem to be hurt. She just curled in Watson's arms with a dull expression. "Miss Rose Wiser, are you okay?" He reached out and touched the blood on her face. Watson used his healing ability to alleviate her injuries as he asked worriedly. I'm fine." Rose Wiser snapped back to her senses. She raised her head and met Watson's worried gaze. That made her lower her head in embarrassment and respond weakly. "It's good that you're fine. I'll deal with that uninvited guest. I'll discuss it with you later." After placing Rose on the ground, Watson turned around and walked toward Agares with a serious expression. "You can attack me, but you've successfully angered me by attacking my future companion. No matter if you're Harold or someone else who has taken over Harold's body, I won't let you off so easily. Now, you only have two options." "Oh, tell me, which two options do I have?" "The first one, immediately kneel and declare your allegiance to me, and apologize to all the students of the Royal Academy. Fix the damage you've caused, and I can forget about what you've done just now. The second option, I'll kill you and let you go back to where you came from." Watson extended two fingers, and Agares could not help but laugh when he saw that. A mere mortal dares to threaten a god? It's been a long time since I've had such a feeling. Fine, I'll let you know the difference between you and me. As he spoke, the Agares waved at the Kingdom of Storms. The ship-shaped divine kingdom immediately flew upward and broke through the sky. A huge spatial crack appeared in the sky, and the other side of the gap was connected to an endless galaxy of stars. A whale made of starlight appeared from the crack, just its tail was the size of the Royal Academy. It was hard to imagine how big the whale was. It was probably not difficult to cover the whole area of the royal city. As long as the whale came out of the crack, it did not need to do anything. Just its huge size could crush the entire royal city. Starlight Tear Spell, Storm Nebula Whale's Descent. Everyone in the restaurant stared at the massive crack above their heads. Their eyes were wide open. Some of the timid ones were so scared that their faces were pale. Their eyes were filled with despair. There is more than one whale. There are similar whales behind the spatial crack. The size of one whale is comparable to the royal city, not to mention countless whales. The intensity of the attack is no less than the previous battle between Watson and Miss Nia. Is that person from the Winter Nation actually so strong? Quote, Agares was very satisfied with the exclamations around him. It was only natural for mortals to react that way in front of gods. After Ares found out where Watson was, he had set off as well. So, Agares had used the power of authority to rush there. After all, he had navigation power, so he could not lose to other gods in terms of speed. The Storm Nebula Whale is a god-tier spell. It contains my understanding of the wind. Even a god would find it difficult to withstand it, let alone a mere mortal. Thinking that Watson was doomed, Agares had a calm expression on his face. Initially, whoever got to Watson first would get the item in Watson's body, and he just happened to be lucky enough to be one of the first ones to get off. Agares was even more relaxed when he saw Watson unmoving under the Storm Nebula Whale as if he was scared silly. He even began to imagine the scene of him dominating the divine realm after obtaining that thing. Was the storm that extreme? If a mortal was asked, then the other party's answer might be a typhoon or a tornado. That answer was different from the gods. The gods knew the storm was not a natural phenomenon, instead, it came from a cosmic nebula storm. The intensity could destroy countless worlds. It was not something that a mortal could understand. At that moment, Watson was in the center of that storm. The lack of air made him unable to breathe. The tearing in his body and even his soul made Watson feel like he was fighting Nia again. However, at that moment, he did not feel as nervous as when he was fighting Nia. Raising his hand, the limitless compass, the wheel of reversal, and even the book of wisdom that he had obtained through fusion floated upward as well. 3 top-tier Starlight Tier artifacts surrounded him. They emitted a dazzling light. Summoning my future self. Activate. Using the wheel of reversal to open the door of time, and then using the limitless compass to close the distance, he would transfer the enormous power of his future self and then use the book of wisdom to project the ability to create things. He would copy the future. Watson summoned his future self easily, and it was not just one summoning. The hole that Agares tore in the sky was filled by numerous time and space gates. A young man about 5 years older than Watson in 7-colored armor walked out from within it. Then, the young man's body split into 3 people. That is the world from 5 years ago? I feel like it's the past. That is the Royal Academy. I missed those days when I went to school. Even though it's not bad to be able to return to the past, Watson, as future you, we must give you some advice. Constantly summoning future you is not the best solution. What you have now will eventually have to be repaid one day in the future. You might not understand what I'm telling you right now. After his 3 future selves appeared, they started to chatter with Watson. They began to twist their arms and necks and do aerobics while they were there. The wheel of reversal could summon one's future self. However, Watson could only summon one from a maximum of 10 years later. However, that required Watson to expend all the strength in his body. In comparison, summoning his future self from 5 years later only required 1/10 of the strength in his body. Furthermore, after the summoning, he could use the power of the Book of Wisdom to duplicate his future self. The Book of Wisdom could duplicate anything that existed. Before the summoning, his future self did not exist in that world, so it could not be duplicated. However, after the summoning, it was different. Watson had only used less than half of his energy with the 2 copies of himself that the Book of Wisdom had duplicated. I know it's not good to keep summoning my future self, but I can't do anything about it. Watson shrugged. He knew that his future selves would have important things to do. Summoning his future selves was to make him put down the work at hand to pay off his debts for the past and wait for his time to enter the future. He would definitely have a headache over that. Still, if he wanted to enter the future, he had to overcome those difficulties. Without the present, there would be no future. If that's the case, then let's get to work. The earlier we finish, the earlier we can go. It won't take up too much of our time. When the 3 future Watsons heard his words, one of them rushed toward the crack above his head while the other 2 surrounded him from both sides. Rushing toward the crack above his head, Watson pressed his palms together and pushed them toward the sky. Suddenly, 2 massive hands formed by incomparably huge storms appeared on both sides of the crack, forcefully closing the spatial gap. However, it was not just the spatial crack. Even the storm nebula whale, which was currently descending from within, had similarly enormous hands formed from the storm beside it. The storm nebula whale was not even as big as the giant's finger. It was crushed into dust before it could even let out a wail. What's going on? Why do you all have the power of the storm nebula as well? That is clearly my authority as the god of wind and navigation. Agaras was in disbelief and panic when he realized that his ultimate move had been quickly neutralized. He was surprised that Watson had used the storm nebula's power and that Watson had actually summoned 3 future versions of himself. Even as a god, he had never seen such a move before. The 3 Watsons were emitting a powerful aura at the peak of the starlight tier, just like 3 gods who had descended from the sky. What's so surprising about that? Isn't that just the manifestation of the wind elemental rules? It's not just the wind, we know other rules as well. For example, we'll use the god tier ice elemental rules next, molecular acceleration. The 2 future Watsons reached out their hands simultaneously and pushed in the direction of the Agaras. The other man opened his mouth but did not make a sound. The space, time, and energy elements contained in the space between him and the 2 future Watsons were all in turmoil. The air turned golden red at a speed visible to the naked eye. The golden red pillar of light pierced through Agar's body, causing his silver-green hair to turn black. The scorching energy flow also penetrated the wind around him. His entire body began to burn spontaneously. Wisps of pitch-black liquid seeped out from his pores and were burned into ashes. An ear-piercing scream was heard. No, stop, I just arrived, I don't want to die yet. Ah! The scream became more and more intense. Agaras fell to the ground and stretched his right hand outward in pain, wanting to beg for mercy. Unfortunately, it was useless. In just a few short breaths, his body melted into black ashes, and he was blown into the air by the wind. The 2 future Watsons, who had used molecular acceleration to melt him and the other Watson, who had closed the crack above their heads, clapped their hands and said, "Done and done." Then, they turned around and entered the gate of time and disappeared. Only a group of Royal Academy students were left, looking at Watson in awe. So strong. In their eyes, The strength that Agaras or Harold had displayed just now was not inferior to Nia's performance in the finals. However, Watson had easily summoned a few of his future selves, and he had easily defeated his opponent. Not only was he able to summon his future selves with such a magical move, but Watson's casual performance also made everyone present feel admiration. Only a few days had passed since the start of the competition, and Watson's strength had once again become stronger. Swoosh! Just as everyone was thinking about that, a red meteor suddenly appeared in the sky, and Douglas's figure appeared in the sky, looking at the miserable state of the Royal Academy's dining hall and the deep pit that had penetrated almost half of the Academy. Thick white smoke shot out of Douglas's mouth and nose, and he snorted coldly. There is still the power of the wind in the air. As expected, that despicable Agaras was the first to make a move. However, since Agaras came early, why didn't he make a move against Watson? Did he want me to make a move and wait by the side to reap the benefits? That was Ares, the god of war, who had occupied Douglas's body. After looking around, his gaze landed on Watson, and he pushed his monocle. That's not right. Judging from the energy fluctuations in the air, there's the power of the wind and the rules of ice. Agaras should not be the only one who had made a move. Agaras is not here at the moment. Is he defeated? What a waste. He's a god, but he's not even a match for a mortal? Since that is the case, the things in Watson's body will belong to me. As he laughed, Ares's lips curled upward. It was as if he was going to laugh until his ears would burst. Slowly, he descended from the sky. Watson, let's have an interesting battle. Along with his voice, a bronze-colored divine kingdom appeared above Ares' head. It was filled with broken weapons and flowed like a blood-red river. The blood-red river seemed to have a life of its own as it rampaged through the bronze city. Everywhere it passed, muffled sounds and the wails of countless living beings could be heard. The moment that divine kingdom appeared, everyone had a flash of red light in their eyes. The desire to fight in their hearts was soaring endlessly. I feel so agitated. I really want to fight with someone. What's going on? A student from the Royal Academy clutched his chest as he panted in pain. Me too. I did not feel that way just now. Not only do I want to fight, but I also want fresh blood. Another student drew his longsword and pointed it at the person beside him, trembling as if he was struggling to stab him. That person just now was the god of wind and navigation, Agaras. And you must be the god of war, Ares, right? Watson's expression was calm. He took a deep breath to suppress the desire to fight in his heart and slowly walked toward Ares. Just in time. Your companion just left. In order to prevent him from being lonely, you should not stay here. I'll give you a free ride. As he spoke, the wheel of reversal floating around Watson formed one time gate after another. Ares, who was opposite him, said, "Give me a ride. If you can do it, then give it a try." A crack also appeared behind him. Countless ancient weapons stained with blood fell from the sky. A great war was about to break out. At that moment, in the king's bedroom, Ash, who Sidi occupied, put down the teacup in her hand. Her black pupils looked in the direction of the distant Royal Academy. Ares' energy profile has also disappeared. Agaras and Ares. Those two idiots have really underestimated our opponent. Judging from how Watson destroyed the unicorn that I possessed, his strength must be at least Starlight tier. Furthermore, they also ignored the competition that the Royal Academy organized 2 days ago. In that case, Sidi, did you watch the competition? Sitting opposite Sidi, King Landhar III held a teacup in his hand and shook it with interest. Sidi nodded and smiled somewhat proudly. Of course, I am the goddess of shadows and potions. Even if I am far away in the divine realm, I can still use my authority to control the shadows of some mortals to watch the competition. I witnessed the battle between Watson and Augustus, and also the girl named Nia. As the child of God, her strength is no weaker than that of an ordinary god. It seems that she is not an ordinary god. I can faintly sense a familiar scent from her body. Stroking her chin, Sidi's voice became lower as she spoke. Noticing that King Landhar III had pricked up his ears, she changed the topic. That was a little off topic just now. Speaking of Watson, the strength he displayed in the competition wasn't bad. I reckon that even if we weren't time travelers, 6 gods descending at the same time might not be able to subdue him easily, let alone one at a time. I'm different from those idiots who think that mortals are worth nothing. They've been too focused on drawing lots. If I want to deal with Watson, I won't use such a simple method like brute force. It seems that you have full confidence in how to defeat Watson. King Landhar III chuckled. That's right, now that Watson has fought against two gods, his strength has almost been used up. I'm almost certain that I can now carry out my plan. Just wait and see, mortal king. I'll definitely take Watson down easily. With a smug look on her face, Sidi got up from her seat as she spoke. She took a step forward, and countless shadows suddenly appeared on the ground where she was. Pitch-black shadow arms emerged from the ground, wrapped her up, and disappeared from where she was. After she left, King Landhar III frowned and said, "According to my plan, the power from those bodies should not be enough to defeat Watson. Letting them freely fight with Watson is also part of my plan." But why is Sidi so confident? Did she have a way to defeat Watson? If she succeeds, then my plan won't be ruined. At the very least, the success rate will become very high. But in a situation where her strength is obviously inferior to Watson's, how is she going to defeat him? In the ruined dining hall at the Royal Academy. "Watson, are you okay?" Kiana came to Watson's side with Nia. During that time, the two women glanced at Rose, who immediately bowed with trembling hands. She said, "Greetings, Your Highness and Miss Nia. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first." Obviously, Rose was very afraid of the two people in front of her. UB*TCH. Watson got injured to protect you, and now you're just saying goodbye? If I had stayed with Watson just now, the one who would have been injured would definitely not be Watson, but me. Kiana snorted coldly, her tone became unpleasant, and her words made Rose cry out. She repeatedly apologized as she lay on the ground. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I'm sorry, I'm rubbish. I'm a bug that grows in weeds. I hope you will let me go." "Kiana, don't scare her." Watson sighed and reached to help Rose up. He said gently, "Don't worry. Kiana was just joking with you." The reason why Kiana said that if she were with him, he would not be the one who would be injured. It must be because he had been smashed by the Divine Kingdom, which triggered Kiana's masochism. She wanted to be crushed by the Divine Kingdom as well. "What joke? I'm serious," Kiana grumbled. However, she only complained in a low voice. "Miss Rose, we can continue our conversation now. I'm very interested in potion making. Can you be my partner and teach me some potion making skills so that we can explore the kingdom's potion market together?" Watson tried his best to look sincere as he reached his right hand toward Rose. Rose did not answer him. She was the same when Watson asked her before, but two different things made her hesitate. The first time, she was hesitant about joining Watson because Watson had just saved her. Then, she was hesitant. How would a useless person like her help Watson? She knew herself well. Since young, she had been weak and sickly and had been bullied by outsiders. It was like when she saw other people during dinner, she would eat faster nervously. Fortunately, she had a loving father who taught her potions, allowing her to find a ray of light in her life. Potions were not very valued in the kingdom because potions and weapons were different. Once a weapon was forged, it could be used repeatedly and passed down from generation to generation as a family heirloom. The price would also become higher and higher. However, potions were different. Even the best potions were only a one-time use item. Furthermore, even though potions had miraculous effects such as making people invisible and increasing their strength, they also had specific side effects. The strength increase by taking potions was utterly different from the strength increase by training. Only those who were not very talented and were very rich would take a large amount of the potion to increase their strength and use it to show off. For Rose, she was such a person. She was able to enter the Royal Academy's warrior department because she had taken enough potions to increase her strength to gold tier forcefully. Her dream was to develop a potion without side effects so that all weaklings like her would be able to obtain power that was not inferior to others after drinking it and would no longer be bullied. "Young Master Watson, you have saved me just now. No matter what, I should join you. But I don't have any special abilities, so I'd better forget it." After thinking for a long time, Rose bit her lip and lowered her head in shame. "I'm really sorry." Not only did Rose worry that she would not be of any use, but she was also concerned that after joining Watson's camp, she would not have the time to complete her dream of a potion that did not have any side effects. She would have to use other ways to repay Watson for saving her life. It doesn't matter. Watson was not too disappointed because he knew that it would not be so easy to recruit people. Anyone outstanding in a specific aspect would definitely have a personality that was different from ordinary people. After thinking for a moment, he flipped through the Book of Wisdom and constructed a black and white bead projection, handing it to Rose. This is called the Blessing of the Gods and Demons. It's a potion that I've developed. I'm giving it to you now. You'll understand when you go back and study it. I'm not just saying that I want to work with you to create a potion. If you change your mind, you can come and find me anytime. With the Book of Wisdom, it became much more convenient for Watson to create materials. The ability to create things in the Book of Wisdom was very similar to the wish for the world ring, but it was much more powerful because there was no limit to the number of times he could create it, and he did not have to pay any price. The Blessing of the Gods and Demons was the strongest potion Watson had developed so far. It could raise a person to platinum tier. He believed that any potion master who understood the essence of it would choose to join him. Today, I'll try to get Rose to join me. At the same time, if I try to get other people, it will make me look too frivolous. As long as Rose could understand the effect of the Blessing of the Gods and Demons, she would not be able to restrain her curiosity and come to him. If Rose could not figure it out, it would prove that the person did not meet his requirements. He would not need to rope her in then. Young Master Watson, don't worry. I'll definitely think about it when I go back. Rose took the black and white bead with a polite tone, glanced at it, and put it into the pocket of her uniform. She did not pay too much attention to it. As someone from a noble family of potion masters, she knew a lot about medicinal herbs. The black and white bead Watson gave her looked very ugly, and it did not emit the unique fragrance of medicinal herbs. Instead, it was like a dazzling gem. It was as if several different gemstones had been processed in a particular way. Calling that thing a potion was simply an insult. In an instant, Rose's impression of Watson was significantly reduced. She would not listen to a person who did not know anything about potions. When he realized that Rose Weiser did not seem to care, Watson did not say anything. He turned around and waved at Kiana and Nia. Let's go. Wait for a moment, my master. The danger hasn't been resolved yet. Something is coming. Do you want me to take action? Nia did not leave with him. Instead, she looked up at the ground beneath her feet with a solemn expression. When Watson was facing the attacks of Agaras and Ares, she wanted to make a move. However, Watson had stopped her. At that time, she felt a tremendous force coming from the ground toward Watson. That made her eager to try. Again? Watson did not answer directly, but he was muttering in his heart. Ever since he saw King Landhar III kill Ash and the other two and understood his plan through the Book of Wisdom, Watson knew that such a day would come. However, he did not expect that there would still be a god who dared to go and seek death after he killed the first two gods. Was that god too confident in his strength, or did he underestimate him? As he was thinking, the entire restaurant's broken floor suddenly shook. The floor was dyed black, and black shadows formed into arms that rose from the ground. They formed a pitch-black kingdom that was constantly squirming. In that kingdom, a woman who looked like Ash was sitting at the top of the shadows. Her pure black pupils did not have any emotion as she looked downward. Watson, you've done well. You were able to kill both Agaras and Ares at the same time. Quote, why is there another person from the Winter Nation? The arrival of the woman who looked like Ash caused the students to be fearful once again. On the one hand, they were afraid that the last genius from the Winter Nation would also display the power of a god and blow up the entire Royal Academy. At the same time, they were also very puzzled. Two of their companions had died at Watson's hands. Why would that woman still dare to appear? Was she not afraid of death? Furthermore, if she wanted to target Watson, would it not be better if the three of them went there together? Why did they have to go there one by one? Most importantly, Ash called her two companions Agaras and Ares. Agaras and Ares. If I remember correctly, they should be the names of the two gods in our kingdom. As for the two contestants from the Winter Nation, their names should be Harold and Douglas. Perhaps Harold and Douglas weren't their real names? They're Ares and Agaras? They even dared to name themselves after the gods in our kingdom. Those two fellows are too bold and reckless. Their deaths aren't regrettable, someone from the priest department said. A look of hatred appeared on his face when he looked at Ash. Watson, please kill that person who blasphemed the gods in our kingdom. Yes, kill her. With someone taking the lead, the rest of the people started to jeer. The people of the Holy Dragon Kingdom had always disliked the Winter Nation, not to mention that that group of people from the Winter Nation had wreaked havoc at the Royal Academy. Some of them had almost died, so they were even more furious. "Kill me? Do you have the ability to do so?" Seedy, who looked like Ash, jumped down from the Divine Kingdom and slowly walked in front of Watson. "I'm different from the two idiots. Since I dared to come here, I'm fully prepared not to be killed. Watson, from the few battles I've fought with you before, I've already come up with a rule that can deal with you." What? Watson suspected that Seedy had found a way to deal with him. That method is. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Seedy came in front of Watson and hugged his arm, saying, "Watson, let's have a child." What? Everyone else in the hall was also dumbfounded. Huh? Judging from their actions, those people from the Winter Nation were there to seek revenge on Watson. When Seedy appeared, her aura was also full of vigor. She even released the pitch-black Divine Kingdom. Why were her words different from what they had expected? They thought that Seedy had a powerful method to deal with Watson, but in the end, that was it. What? A child? A child? I've never even made that request to Watson, so why did you get to make it first? In addition, as a member of the Winter Nation, you actually made such a shameless request. Do you still have any dignity? Kiana was the first to react. Her hands were on her hips as she stomped her feet in anger. Dignity? Seedy changed from leaning against Watson to turning her head to look at Kiana with a calm expression. What use is that thing to me? Furthermore, I'm the Winter Nation's princess, so I should be with Watson. The current situation between the Winter Nation and the Holy Dragon Kingdom is not too optimistic. If I were to marry Watson, the Winter Nation and the Holy Dragon Kingdom would stop fighting, and we might even become one family in the future. Is that not a good thing? Quote, that. Kiana was at a loss for words. The other Royal Academy students did not know how to refute it. What Seedy said was so reasonable that they were speechless. No, if you really want to be with Watson, then what's with the actions of those two just now? Aren't they your subordinates? They just attacked us. We can't believe your words. All of this is just your conspiracy. Kiana rolled her eyes as she found an excuse to attack. Her words made the people around her wake up, and the look in their eyes turned from shock to hardness. Yes, if Seedy really wanted to be with Watson and promote peace between the two kingdoms, why did she let her subordinates attack them? As a princess, is that all you have? That's why I said that you're idiots. I asked my two subordinates to attack, not to let them hurt you but to offer them as sacrifices to Watson. After all, they have killed many of the kingdom's geniuses in the competition. It should alleviate your anger now that they're dead. Seedy held Watson's hand as she spoke. It was as if the sacrificial lambs were not her subordinates. If you are still unable to accept that, then I can ask the Winter Nation to give the Holy Dragon Kingdom gold coins or other compensation after I marry Watson. Are you satisfied now? The entire hall fell silent. No one could refute her. Chapter 436, Surpassing the Gods. Is she really one of the three geniuses from the Winter Nation? To say such a thing is tantamount to treason. Using our former companions as sacrifices to appease our anger might be useful, but if we do that to our past companions, we might do something terrible in the future. However, the conditions she proposed aren't without any advantages. Letting the Winter Nation's princess marry Watson can indeed prevent the two kingdoms from starting a war. The Holy Dragon Kingdom's strength is currently improving. Destroying the Winter Nation is not a problem, but people will die in a war. It would be great if there were a way to resolve the battle without deaths. When the group of geniuses from the Royal Academy heard Seedy's words, they could not help but whisper to each other. To be able to become young geniuses and enter the Royal Academy, their strength might not be as monstrous as Watson's, but they were also outstanding existences in the kingdom. None of them were fools. They had analyzed the pros and cons of the Winter Nation's princess marrying Watson. At the same time, they also had some doubts in their hearts. Why would Seedy suddenly fall in love with Watson? The two of them had only met once during the competition. Perhaps the Winter Nation's contestants and envoys did not leave because of Seedy? You're a woman from the Winter Nation. Do you think we believe you? You did not meet Watson a few times before. Now that you have come and said that you like Watson, only a fool would believe you. Later, I will explain the situation to Father and have him send someone to capture you and throw you into the kingdom's dungeon. Kiana asked the questions on behalf of everyone there. Seedy chuckled. She retorted calmly, Princess, why don't you reflect on yourself before you say that? Didn't you fall in love with Watson before the outcome of the competition was decided? At that time, you only met him a few times. For the Winter Nation, the women are expected to find a strong person to marry so that they can have a strong heir. Only by purifying the bloodline and making the child stronger can we adapt to the cold environment of the northern ice plains. Is there anyone here stronger than Watson? No, right? So what's wrong with me wanting to have a child with him? Quote, you. Kiana pointed at Seedy, unable to speak for a long time because her words were reasonable. The theory of Winter Nation's bloodline had been rumored by many people, even in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. For the Winter Nation, all their people were born with destined talents, so the limits they could reach in the future were also destined. The strong were destined to be strong, while the weak could not even withstand hunger and snow. The Winter Nation's royal family had the most outstanding bloodline selected from many noblemen, and their ruler was not a man like the kings of other kingdoms. It was a queen who controlled their politics, which also symbolized the supreme status of women. Young miss, what do you want? Watson frowned. He could feel the pitch-black power in Ash. That power was very familiar to him. Without a doubt, it was the power of the goddess of shadow and potion, Seedy, whom he had encountered twice. Seedy was inside Ash's body. That goddess actually said that she wanted to have a child with him. It was hard to doubt if there was a conspiracy. Don't call me young miss. I have a name. My name is Ash. You can call me Ash, or sweet baby, or dear, and so on. Seedy held Watson's hand tightly, blinking her long eyelashes. She had inherited an excellent bloodline, and Ash was gorgeous. Her figure was consistent with the characteristics of women from the Winter Nation. She was much taller than the women of the Holy Dragon Kingdom, and with her deep eyebrows and exquisite facial features, she was charming, like a sculpture of a living ice goddess. In addition, at that moment, Ash seemed to be sticking to Watson's body, and a faint fragrance unique to young girls entered Watson's nostrils. Any man in that situation would find it hard not to be distracted. Watson shivered at the mushy way that Seedy addressed him. No, Miss Ash, just tell me what your purpose is. I don't like to beat around the bush. Quote, you're annoying. What bad intentions can a weak girl like me have? If you want to talk about my purpose, I just said it. I just want to have a child with you. If you don't object, let's start now. As she spoke, Seedy reached out to take off her clothes, causing an uproar in the crowd. I heard that the girls in the Winter Nation are very open-minded and can do anything with the person they like. But this is a dining hall and a public place. She's too bold. I have to say that the girls in the Winter Nation are not only open-minded, but their figures are also skinny. It's great if there's a chance to taste it. I envy Watson. He has Princess Kiana, Nia, and Miss Christina, and now he even hooked up with the princess of an enemy kingdom. After seeing Seedy take the initiative, everyone's hostility toward the woman from the Winter Nation lessened a little and was replaced by envy toward Watson. Some people even felt like it was Watson's fault that they had just been attacked and their lives were in danger. Seedy said that those two people were attacked to give Watson a gift so that he could forgive her for what she had done in the competition. It was fine to ask Watson to forgive her, but involving innocent people like them would be too much. For a moment, many people's hatred shifted to Watson. The burning gaze made Watson feel a little uncomfortable. He frowned and thought to himself, could this be Seedy's goal? To use public opinion to defeat me? To make me the target of public criticism? However, that method was too childish. With his status in the Royal Academy, even if there were people who were dissatisfied with him, there were probably only a few people who dared to stand out and oppose him. While Watson was thinking, Seedy leaned into his arms and pretended to be a little girl. In her heart, she was also thinking, Watson, how is it? Are you amazed? This is the method that I have devised to deal with you. Through my previous observations of you, I discovered that you are a person who will not be swayed by force, especially when facing a girl. Rather than using forceful methods to confront you, it's better to submit to you and make you feel bad. You will take the initiative to hand over the thing that I want. The idea of having a child was not because Seedy liked Watson, but she wanted to give them the impression that she liked Watson. On the other hand, she had another purpose in having a child. Watson's child might inherit some of his power. She could train the child to be her fighter, or she could simply unsheathe her soul and occupy the child's body. The more she thought about it, the more she felt like her plan was flawless. If other people knew what Seedy was thinking, they would definitely be shocked and speechless by her wicked thoughts. Unfortunately, traditional ethics could not restrain the gods. "Watson, if you don't like the crowd here, we can find a place where there is no one." Holding Watson's hand, Seedy turned around and walked out of the restaurant, looking indifferent. For Seedy, it did not matter when or where she slept with Watson because she pursued only strength. Even if she were there right then, it would not be a problem. However, Watson seemed to retain the sense of shame of the secular world, so she just cooperated a little. "Stop right there, you shameless woman." Kiana could not help but rush out, opening her arms to block Seedy's. Initially, Kiana felt like Nia was her biggest enemy, who was pestering Watson. She did not expect that there would be an Ash. For the indifferent Nia, Seedy, who had dared to take off her clothes in public, was 100 times more lethal. "Your Highness, you don't have to be angry. I just want to have a child with Watson. I did not say that I wanted him. If you're not satisfied, you can come with us. Later, the two of us can serve him together." Serve him together? As if she did not expect Seedy to say such shameful words, Kiana's face instantly turned red, and her breathing labored. The strong sense of betrayal made her feel ashamed and excited at the same time. How did she not have thought of such a good idea to do that? If Watson showed favoritism to Seedy and treated her coldly during that time, she would feel great about it. "Hey, why do you look so excited?" Then, Watson could not help but ridicule her. Kiana's body trembled with excitement, but she pretended not to care. "Despicable Winter Nation people, do you think everyone is like you? I will not share my husband with others. I can go with you, but I will supervise you and not let you touch Watson." Yes, 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 whatever you say. If she wanted to go with them, she would just say it aloud and find an excuse. That was why she said that mortals were inferior creatures. Then, she turned her head toward Nia, Christina, and the others. "What about you guys? Do you want to go with us?" "No, we won't go." Innocent girls like Charlotte and Lily immediately waved their hands and blushed. They knew what would happen if they left with Watson, but they did not have that kind of relationship with Watson. As for Christina, she frowned. "I won't go. Similarly, I won't let you take Watson away." Previously, because of Nia and Kiana, Watson had caused a mess in the house, which was already very displeasing to her. How could she accept it? "Well, if all of you aren't willing to go, I can go and help." At that moment, Casey stretched his hand outward weakly and saw the three beautiful women surrounding Watson. He could not help but gulp. The three women were probably too heavy a burden for Watson. He would probably let his brother share his burden. Scram! Unexpectedly, after he finished speaking, all the women, including Kiana and Seedy, turned their heads and spat out a single word at him. "It's fine if you don't want me to go, but why are you scolding me?" With a defeated expression, Casey muttered in a grievance. He had not touched any women since he came to the capital. Kiana and Nia would definitely not let him touch them. Even if they wanted him, he would not dare to do so. However, Seedy was different. The Winter Nation's princess seemed to be very open-minded. Perhaps she could let him enjoy time with her for free. In any case, that princess needed the seeds from the strong. What was the difference between him and Watson? He felt like he was quite strong as well. What happened here? When Casey was feeling unconvinced, the intense fluctuations caused by the battle between the two gods, Agaras and Ares, finally attracted the attention of the academy teacher. It looks like the three contestants from the Winter Nation have returned, and two of them fought with Watson. Some students who had witnessed everything went to the teacher and recounted what had happened, including why Harold and Douglas had fought with Watson, as well as the fact that Ash had requested Watson for a child after she appeared. They recounted every single word, and their tone could not hide their bitterness. "Teacher, is Watson going to be punished for doing such a thing?" Even though Watson was the strongest genius in the kingdom, they did not dare to provoke him. The male students were furious at him. If they did not punish Watson, they would feel that it was unjust. "Yes, I would punish him even if you don't say so." Under the gloating gazes of many male students and the worried gazes of many female students, the teacher snorted coldly and walked in front of Watson. When everyone thought that the teacher wanted to punish Watson, the teacher grinned and patted Watson's shoulder affectionately. Watson did well. The Royal Academy has wanted to renovate the dining hall, especially since the number of students this time is more than 10 times that of the previous years. This hall is no longer big enough to accommodate so many people eating here. It just so happens that you've destroyed it. On behalf of all the students and teachers of the Academy, I thank you. The money to renovate the dining hall will be deducted from the gold coins you left in the arena. You don't have any objections, right? Of course not. Watson shook his head. That's good, Watson. You, Princess Kiana, and the Winter Nation's princess should go have some fun. Now that the dining hall has been destroyed, you won't be able to eat here. I'll allow you to eat outside. Just remember to come back in time for class in the afternoon. Even if you forget to attend class, it doesn't matter. I'll arrange for someone to organize the lessons and send them to the Sword Saint's courtyard. The academy teacher was smiling. He rubbed his hands together in a manner that was close to flattery as he spoke to Watson. That scene caused the other students in the academy to be dumbfounded. What happened? Watson had clearly made a mistake, yet he was not punished. Instead, he was rewarded. Were they crazy, or had the world gone mad? Teacher, you're too courteous. Then let's go out for a meal. As for the lessons in the afternoon, I will still have to come back for that. After all, I'm a student. As expected of the most outstanding genius of the kingdom conferred by His Majesty. Everyone, listen to his touching words. He doesn't need to attend the classes, yet he insists on attending them. This is truly a rare quality. I hope that everyone can learn from Watson. Many students revealed strange expressions on their faces. They were on the verge of vomiting. Even if they wanted to praise Watson, there was no need to be so deliberate. When did attending classes become an outstanding quality? Was that not something that every student should do? Everyone should be able to do that. After exchanging a few words with the teacher, Watson held onto Ceedy's hand and walked out of the hall. The teacher's words were just what he wanted to hear. He wanted to find a place where there was no one. He wanted to inquire about what the goddess wanted to do. After Watson left, a small discussion broke out in the dining hall. What's going on? Watson had left a sum of money in the academy, so the teachers don't dare to offend him. As the son of a duke, my family's quite wealthy. Does that mean that I can also eat outside? The food in the Royal Academy was not bad, but eating with a large group of students was a disgrace to some of the great noblemen. If they could go out to eat, they would not let it go. The young nobleman who had just spoken raised his thoughts to the teacher. The teacher said, "What are you saying? The Royal Academy stipulates that all those who enter the academy, other than accommodation, must complete everything else, including eating and training, within the academy. You must do that here. You must remember that you are not a nobleman here but a warrior. You are the pillars that will make the kingdom stronger in the future. This is not a place for you to enjoy. If you can't even endure this little bit of hardship, what else can you do?" As soon as he said that, the young nobleman who had just asked was stunned. Why is Watson allowed to go out, but I can't? Is it not because Watson donated money? How much money did he donate? I can do that too. This has nothing to do with money. It's simply because Watson has made a massive contribution to the Royal Academy. In addition, he has exceptional talent. That is just our special treatment for geniuses. The academy teacher rebutted righteously. A moment later, he said, "By the way, he has left the Royal Academy 1,000,000,000,000 gold coins. Can you guys come up with that number of gold coins? 1,000,000,000,000 gold coins? Really?" Many students looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. Typically, a family with assets of over 1,000,000,000 gold coins would be considered a great noble family in the kingdom, and 100 billion gold coins were equivalent to hundreds of years of taxes in the kingdom. Where did Watson get so much money? It was no wonder that the teacher was so respectful toward Watson. He said that Watson was respected because of his talent. None of the students believed him because the Royal Academy had always adhered to treating everyone equally. They would not give special treatment to an aristocrat just because they were powerful or had outstanding children. Otherwise, the Royal Academy would not have been able to develop to such a powerful level. The teachers wanted to treat Watson equally, but Watson had given them too much. The students could understand that. If they were the teachers, they would probably fawn over Watson as well. For a time, the rumors of Watson being a romantic and wealthy young man spread throughout the Royal Academy. After Watson had successfully defeated all his opponents with his formidable strength, his other aspects were also revealed in front of the students of the Royal Academy. After leaving the academy, Watson immediately pulled Seedy into an empty alley and pressed her against the wall. Seedy, tell me, what exactly do you want from me? Seedy? Watson, did you say the wrong name? The person in front of you is obviously the Winter Nation's princess. Also, why do I feel like I've heard of the name Seedy before? Among the people who followed Watson out of the Royal Academy, Lily was also there. After hearing Watson's words, she revealed a puzzled look. Seedy is the name of the goddess who controls shadows and potions among the 7 gods of the kingdom. Lily, you didn't listen to me when I asked you to read more books. Now you must be dumbfounded. After Charlotte knocked on Lily's head, she turned to look at Seedy, who was pressed against the wall by Watson and looked indifferent. Her eyes flickered. It looks like it's not just the case of having the same name. Lana, what does Charlotte mean by not having the same name? Casey, who followed him into the alley, asked in confusion. Lana, who was holding a parasol not far away from him, sighed. It's literally what it means. That person is not Ash, the Winter Nation's princess, but the projection of the shadow and potion goddess, or rather, the goddess herself. The goddess herself. Casey could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He must have been possessed when he wanted to make a move on Seedy. Fortunately, he did not do that, or he would be in deep trouble. Even an ignorant person like him understood what the 7 gods represented in the kingdom and how much power the gods had. So that person is not Ash but the incarnation of the goddess. Then, what about her 2 companions? Were they gods as well? Christina finally reached the alley and quietly clenched her fists because she had fought with Harold before. She knew that Harold's strength was not as strong as what he had shown in the restaurant. She had thought that Harold had made a breakthrough, but it seemed like things were not that simple. Well, it looks like you have seen through my disguise. I wanted to hide it for a while. Watson, why did you expose my identity in front of so many mortals? Seedy let Watson grab her neck. Her expression was calm. Other than Casey, they are all my friends. It has nothing to do with them. On the other hand, you, as a god, did not act like the previous 2. Instead, you said that you wanted to have a child with me. I really can't figure it out. Tell me everything. Otherwise, I would not mind sending you back to the Divine Kingdom. Watson spoke each word clearly. His words were full of threats against Seedy, which surprised everyone. They still did not dare to confirm the identity of the woman in front of them. If she was really a goddess, then Watson was a little too bold to dare to threaten her. Whoosh! After Watson's voice fell, Seedy waved her hand, and a magical light barrier immediately appeared in front of her, blocking her and Watson from the rest. It cut off the sound of the outside world, and at the same time, prevented her own voice from being transmitted out. Watson, let me tell you about our plan. This time, we plan to obtain the thing in your body. 6 gods are participating in this hunt. However, if we want to descend safely into the mortal world, we must have a special medium. Therefore, currently, only Agaras, Ares, and I have descended. Due to the limitations of our bodies, the power that we can unleash is still limited. It is only 1/10 of our power. If all of us are here and raise the quality of the medium at all costs, then even you would not be able to fight against us. You would die, and one of us would obtain the thing in your body. Seedy's sharp voice reverberated within the protective barrier. Hearing those words, Watson's expression remained calm, without the slightest change. It seems that you already know about that? Seedy tilted her head in puzzlement. Seedy continued to say, in that case, I'll tell you something you don't know. Young man, do you know why we want that thing on you? Or do you know what that thing in your body is? Watson did not answer, but his pupils contracted. He only knew that the thing in his body was called the fusion system. As for what that thing was and who created it, he had no idea how it came to be in his body. Sensing the change in his expression, Seedy smiled. It seems that you don't know the origin of that thing. So you do know? No, I don't know either. Watson's mouth began to twitch. He wanted to curse. Since Seedy did not know, he could just say it was a hammer. Although I don't know, according to the god's oldest records, this world was created by the god of creation. The god of creation was able to create this world because of his power of creation and also the power of some supreme weapon. The name of that weapon is not recorded in the records, but its ability is fusion. Fusion has always been regarded as the ultimate and most powerful energy in the world. It is the object of contention among the gods. It is a pity that there has never been in existence who could comprehend such power, even among the gods. Sidi shook her head, then licked her lips. Her gaze penetrated Watson's body. About 10,000 years ago, a chaotic battle broke out between many races on this continent. The purpose of that battle was to fight for the ownership of the power that surpassed the gods. The starlight tier is the domain of gods, and above that is the sovereign tier. The sovereign tier gods has a higher status than the ordinary gods. We call them god kings, and they are at a tier that truly surpasses the gods. That is what all gods strive to be. The chaotic war between many races more than 10,000 years ago was not the beginning of the continent's civilization. Instead, it was the end of all civilizations because the power that each race held was so strong that it shattered the world. The mortal world you are now in and the divine realm that the gods live in are actually one world. However, the fragments that we are in are broader and can bear more power. And pieces like those are everywhere in the outside world. Of course, in the eyes of you mortals, those fragments have a special name, stars. Quote, "It turned out that the stars were not independent worlds but fragments of the original world." It was the first time Watson had heard such a statement. He could not help but recall a sentence that Master Antonio had often said to him before. That world was much bigger than he had imagined. If the continent that carried 5 kingdoms was just a tiny fragment of the real world, and the real fragment was endless and covered the entire starry sky. He really could not imagine how big the real world was. He could not even imagine what kind of existence could shatter such a world. Perhaps it was just as Sidi had said, that was something that could only be achieved by surpassing the gods. Unfortunately, he was not even a god. Even if he racked his brains, he would not be able to think of that tier. Sidi, why are you telling me this? Those secrets should only be known by gods and could be considered celestial information. Watson did not think that Sidi would tell him for no reason. Of course, it's to make friends with you. I think that the probability of us hunting you is not high. Even if we kill you, the likelihood of me obtaining the power in your body is even lower. Under such circumstances, I have a better choice than going against you. That is to have a child with you and let my child absorb a part of your power. Even if that method does not succeed, I can simply ally with you and let you use that power to help me do something. That is the same as me obtaining that power. Gods were higher beings than humans, so their way of thinking was different. They did not have emotions. Their thoughts were purely from a rational point of view. Instead of fighting with the other 5 gods and getting nothing in the end, it was better to be an idiot and benefit from Watson. I understand what you're thinking. I still can't completely trust you. So if you want me to do something, I'll judge if it's something I'd like to do. Otherwise, I won't agree. Similarly, if you want my help, you have to pay me the same amount, Watson said after a moment of hesitation. Sidi nodded. It seemed as though Watson's reply was within her expectations. From now on, I'm on your side. With a true goddess by your side as a helper, you'll soon know how lucky you are. Don't look down on my shadow and potions domain, even though it is not a combat domain. I am a goddess. I am the top 3 amongst the 7 gods who protect the Holy Dragon Kingdom. After making a deal with Watson, Sidi could not help but smack her plump chest, revealing a smug look on her face. I hope so, Watson muttered to himself. Sidi had gone from being an enemy to a companion. He had not expected that his relationship with Sidi would develop to that extent. As for the concept that Sidi had mentioned, he did not really understand it. Just as he was about to ask, a cold voice pierced through the barrier, ringing in their ears. A mere god saying that he wants to help my master? You are unqualified. The voice pierced through the protective barrier that Sidi had set up. Nia placed her hands on her lower abdomen and slowly walked past the barrier. How is that possible? Sidi was in disbelief. Although the protective shield she had set up was just a casual move, it also contained her divine power. The divine power was fundamentally different from the combat aura and magic that mortals possessed. It was a higher energy factor. It was not something that a human could break through. However, the woman in front of her had easily penetrated the protective shield. She had seen Nia's battle with Watson. At that time, she could tell that Nia was the child of God who had reincarnated from a god, but she did not care. That was because it was more difficult for a child of God to become a god than someone who had never become one. That was due to the restriction of the laws on strength. The mortal world could not withstand a god because the divine power in the body of a living creature would cause the mortal to explode to protect itself. The world would take the initiative to expel that overly mighty power. Similarly, it was challenging for a god to lower their divine power and reincarnate as a mortal. The slightest carelessness would cause him to turn into ashes. Previously, when watching the competition, Seti had only treated Nia as a brave god. However, after using Ash's body to resurrect and using Ash's special pupils to see Nia's energy outline, she felt a sense of familiarity. At that moment, after seeing Nia up close, the sense of familiarity became even stronger. You are not an ordinary child of God. I can feel the familiar power in your body. Who are you? My name is Nia. I am just an ordinary god. After Nia walked into the protective barrier, she humbly responded to Seti's inquiry. Then, she hesitated for a moment before asking, "My divine kingdom once hung in the north of the divine realm. It was called the frozen earth at the divine realm's final tier. After I left, I entrusted the frozen earth to a certain god I trusted. I wonder what became of it. The frozen earth at the final tier? You control the cold and ice. Are you the god king of the frozen earth, the ancient existence known as the primordial white?" With the information that Nia gave him, Seti suddenly thought of something. Her eyes widened, and she screamed, "The final tier's frozen earth? The primordial white?" Watson was somewhat puzzled. He could not understand their conversation. However, that did not prevent him from understanding that Nia was a very powerful god in the divine realm before becoming the child of God. "No wonder you felt familiar. You're the primordial white," Seti muttered softly. Her expression became very complicated. She had heard of the primordial white and had even seen them from afar, so she felt familiar with Nia. However, she did not know Nia's real name. At that moment, she only remembered it after hearing Nia's description. The primordial white was an honorific title for important gods. The word primordial represented the world's creation, proving that those beings had the power to create the world. As for the primordial white, it indicated the power they had grasped. The specific power corresponding to the primordial white was the molecular deceleration, symbolizing the endless cold that existed in the world since the creation of heaven and earth. Other than the primordial white, the divine realm also had the primordial red, which represented the molecular acceleration ability, and other titles like the primordial black. If one wanted to obtain those titles, one could only kill the person who had them or get them to transfer them voluntarily. You still haven't answered my question. Furthermore, I'm no longer primordial white. I'm just an ordinary god with weak divine powers. I can't even be considered a god. If I have the chance to return to the divine realm, I might be able to get back the primordial white and the primordial red titles, Nia said expressionlessly. Her words caused Seti's body to tremble once again. She had taken 2 titles at the same time and even said that she was an ordinary god. That was too funny. A god who could obtain the primordial title stood at the peak of the divine realm. They had to be in the sovereign tier and be the best among those in the sovereign tier. The shadow and potion goddess was only a starlight tier god. She had no right to speak in front of a sovereign tier god. So she said, "Miss Nia." "No, Master Nia. After you left, the frozen earth was still controlled by the gods who favored cold and ice. There wasn't much change." After knowing Nia's true identity, Seti subconsciously treated that woman with more respect. At the same time, she complained in her heart. Fortunately, she learned her lesson and did not fight with Watson. Otherwise, Nia alone could destroy all 6 of them. The gap between the gods from Starlight and Sovereign tiers was even more significant than between gods and mortals. After she allied with Watson, she thought that she could think of a way to cause trouble in places that Watson did not know about. However, she completely dismissed the idea. Perhaps she could incite Nia to fight against Watson. The thing in Watson's body was also tempting to even a sovereign tier god. The temptation should even be more significant. Perhaps Nia stayed by Watson's side to obtain that thing. If that was the case, she was willing to do anything for Nia. After all, the item in Watson's body would be in the hands of a sovereign tier god king. It was easy to guess which was safer. "Nia, who are you? It seems like Seti respects you very much. Are you an extraordinary god?" Watson asked. I am just an ordinary god. It is precisely because I am not satisfied with being ordinary in the past that I reincarnated as the child of God and started cultivating again. My goal is to obtain both the primordial white and primordial red titles simultaneously. However, even so, I am still very ordinary. I might be able to become a powerful god king, but your power has already surpassed that of a god, master. Therefore, I will be satisfied as long as I can stay by your side and be at your beck and call. What? Seedy, who had been thinking about how to harm Watson, was stunned when she heard that. It turned out that Nia did not covet the thing in Watson. Instead, she wanted to follow Watson. A god king actually wanted to follow a mortal. That was not quite right. Perhaps Nia saw something else worthy in Watson that she could not see because her tier was too low? Nia, don't say that. We're friends. Friends should help each other, right? Watson scratched his head and said in embarrassment. Nia lowered her head. I don't dare. You are my master. At least, I'm not qualified to be friends with you, master. That respectful attitude made Seedy even more confident that Watson was not ordinary. Otherwise, the mighty god king Nia would not act like that. Seedy made up her mind. She would never provoke Watson and even try to curry favor with him until she figured out why Nia behaved like that. Chapter 437. The Potion-Making Family. Nia was an ordinary god, or rather, a very ordinary person. At least, that was what Nia thought. Looking at her past life, she was born into a family that was neither rich nor poor. At that time, there was no such concept as a kingdom on land. Powerful cultivators or gods occupied the top of a divine mountain, using it as the center to build cities and villages around it. At that time, cities and villages had to obey the will of the divine mountain's master. For example, if there was a drought or a flood, they had to pray to the gods to exchange for peace. Similarly, if other villages or powerful magical beasts invaded them, they could trade for powerful strength to drive their enemies away as long as they prayed. When Nia was young, she was also a girl who believed in the powerful existence of the divine mountains. Until one day, she had an idea in her heart. Since the high and mighty gods could stand on the top of the divine mountains and look down on all living things, controlling people's lives, then, if she had great power, could she also become a god, protect her family and friends, and become equally noble? That was the first time she had the idea to cultivate in her young mind. After that, it was out of control. When she was 10 years old, she bade farewell to her parents in the village and began to climb one of the divine mountains. At that time, the world was hundreds of billions of times larger. The divine mountains were millions of meters tall. Many people would find it difficult to climb them, even if they climbed for their entire lives. However, she persevered. She did not awaken any divine power or unique moves during the climb. On the contrary, she almost died many times because of the extreme cold and the invasion of magical beasts. In the end, she arrived at the divine mountain by relying on her willpower. That year, she was only 20 years old, and the first thing the divine mountain's master said when he saw her was, "You don't have the talent to cultivate. You spent 10 years coming to the mountain. I admire your courage, so I will give you armor that can withstand the cold and heat and a spear that can pierce through the scales of monsters. You should go back." With the weapons and armor given by the gods, Nia did not give up. She left that divine mountain and climbed to the next one. Many mountains reached the clouds, and behind each mountain was one or more gods. If one god were not willing to accept her as a disciple, then she would choose another peak and look for another master until someone was willing to teach her the techniques to cultivate. On the second peak, Nia was bestowed with a spring that could grant her immortality. On the third peak, she obtained a divine medicine that would not make her feel hungry even if she did not eat for a long time. On the fourth mountain, she climbed the mountains, one after another. No one passed on any knowledge to Nia. However, as Nia obtained more and more things, she became stronger and stronger. Finally, one day, a war broke out. The gods seemed to be fighting over something. The towering mountains that reached into the clouds were cut in half. The blood of the gods spilled on the ground. The cities and villages that were built around the gods and the mountains became hostile because of that. The land was shattered, and the rivers dried up. In order to survive, the cities and villages gradually gathered and became a kingdom. The gods also began to form alliances, dividing the territories and factions. All of that had nothing to do with Nia. That did not stop her thirst for knowledge. Due to the wars, many gods no longer lived on the divine mountains, and they no longer had good intentions to teach scholars. Most of the kingdoms that were already under God's protection showed great hostility toward Nia, a foreigner. Some wanted to execute her, while others tried to snatch the treasures bestowed on her by many gods. Nia could only destroy those people and kingdoms with a flip of her hand. Only then did Nia realize that she already had great power. Even some weaker gods might not be a match for her. Since I've only walked through the world, seen people and things, and received some gifts that made me so powerful, then what reason do I have to stop? I don't need others to teach me anything. I just need to comprehend it myself and become stronger. That's enough. From then on, Nia had transformed from a person seeking to learn to someone who sought challenges. She would challenge all the elites no matter where she went. Some people defeated her, while others died in her hands. Gradually, the northern part of the divine realm became a piece of frozen earth. A goddess who controlled ice, snow, and coldness appeared. She reached the peak of the divine realm and was given the title of the primordial white. However, for that goddess, she was not satisfied with everything she got. She wanted to become stronger, but there was no more powerful god for her to challenge. There was no more magical tool to help her become stronger, so she thought of a way. In this life, I have reached the peak of my current level. This is because I lack talent and can only work hard to get here. If I have talent, even if it is only twice as strong as before, I will be at a different level. So that goddess chose to be reincarnated. That was the goddess named Nia and the story of her ordinary first life. Watson, that is all I know about the primordial white. If you want to hear more, let Nia tell it to you herself. Seedy licked her dry lips and panted heavily from exhaustion. She had revealed Nia's identity as the primordial white, and Watson, who was curious about it, was unwilling to let it go. He had to make her tell it clearly. There was no other way, so she could only tell the story. That version was widely acknowledged in the deity world, and other versions were more outrageous. Seedy felt it would be very tiring to tell him everything, so she did not say it. Nia, is that true? Watson asked Nia, and she nodded. Generally speaking, there's no problem. Actually, after I reincarnated, I don't remember much of my past memories because it was too long ago. It's true. What kind of monster did I fight in the competition? Watson looked conflicted, and he could not help but sigh. He had thought that Nia, as the child of God, was the reincarnation of a starlight tier god, but who would have thought that Nia was actually a sovereign tier god? No wonder he had been unable to defeat Nia in the match no matter what methods he used. In the end, he had no choice but to invite his future self. If he had known that Nia was the reincarnation of a sovereign tier god, he would have admitted defeat during the competition. After all, there was a huge difference between their two tiers. Master is too modest. Compared to me, Master is even more powerful. In 10 years, I am no longer your match, Master. I think you will reach an unimaginable tier in the future. You have something I lacked, talent. Therefore, as long as I am by your side, I believe that my achievements in this life will be higher than I expected, Nia replied humbly. She was a person who knew herself well. It was precisely because she knew her limits that she could understand how powerful Watson was. Furthermore, with that thing in Watson, it was likely that he would eventually become the strongest even if he did nothing. That's good. The corners of Nia's mouth curled upward slightly, revealing a human-like smile. It was not that she was not interested in what was in Watson's body. On the contrary, as the strongest target, she was very interested in that. However, she was different from Seedy. She would not take that thing away. She wanted to protect Watson until he became infinitely strong. Her strength would only grow if she fought against stronger opponents continuously. Therefore, she had to create an infinitely strong person. We've been chatting here for long enough. It's time to go out. Don't let the others wait anxiously. Noticing Nia's smile, Watson smiled as well. It was the first time he saw Nia smile like a human, like a white flower blooming on the peak of a snowy mountain. Even though the smile was only for a moment, it was 10 times better than Nia's cold appearance. That made him determined to make Nia smile more often in the future. As his voice fell, the protective shield built by Seedy was removed. Kiana and the others who were standing outside immediately surrounded him. Watson, what were you talking about when you were hiding in the magic shield with that woman who seems to be a god? Kiana asked. I know. They must be discussing where to have a baby. Without waiting for Watson to speak, Casey raised his hand and answered. Casey, why are you so full sh*t? I feel for Lana to have a brother like you. Charlotte and Lily looked disgusted and shook their heads. Lily even pulled Lana to her side and kept her away from Casey. What did I say? Casey looked aggrieved. He felt like he was not wrong. If they were not discussing having a baby, why would they deliberately block their voices so that the others could not listen? We did not say anything. Don't worry, Watson replied perfunctorily and looked at the sky. It's getting late. We still have classes in the afternoon. Just now, the dining hall was destroyed because of the attack, so everyone's meal ended early. Let's go to the Holy Dragon Tavern to eat something and then go back to the academy. Seeing that Watson had started to change the topic, Kiana pouted in dissatisfaction but did not ask further. Following Watson's instructions, after everyone finished eating, Watson and Ceedee quickly separated. Ceedee said she had to go back to the palace to report to King Landhar III about the encounter with Watson. Kiana also went back. Since the arena was filled with gold coins, the afternoon class for the warrior department was temporarily changed to the theory of sword techniques. Kiana was not a student at the Royal Academy, so she could not enter the class even though she was a princess. Furthermore, it was very dull to attend the class, so Kiana left. The theory of sword techniques class started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and lasted for the entire afternoon. Nothing major happened during that class. The whole class was absent-minded, while the other students were distracted because Watson had fought 2 strong Winter Nation warriors in the afternoon. In addition, Ceedee had publicly said that he wanted to have a child with him. That caused many people to whisper among themselves. After leaving the academy, where did Watson take Ceedee and the others to? Did he have that kind of relationship with them? Watson pretended not to hear that gossip. After the class ended, he immediately turned around and walked out of the class with Christina, who was in the same class. Before he could leave the academy, someone suddenly called out to him. Young Master Watson, His Majesty has invited you to the palace. What does His Majesty want from me? Watson looked at the man in front of him. The man was wearing court attire and was getting down from a splendid carriage. He bowed to Watson. It was apparent that the man was a coachman from the palace. I don't know. I only know that His Majesty has invited you, young Master Watson. I don't know anything else. Tina, do you want to go with me? Watson turned to look at Christina beside him. Christina hesitated for a moment and shook her head. No, His Majesty only invited you and did not invite me. If I go there, it might make His Majesty unhappy. I'd better go back to the Sword Saint's courtyard and wait for you. All right, then I'll take my leave. After bidding farewell to Christina, Watson got into the carriage, and the coachman drove them out of the academy. That scene was witnessed by many students of the academy, causing them to discuss it animatedly. It's Watson. If I'm not mistaken, the carriage that took him has the seal of the royal family on it. It should be the king's carriage. He destroyed the Royal Academy, but no one cared about it. On the contrary, he was rewarded. Furthermore, he did something with several women, including Her Highness, at noon. Then, he had the king's carriage to take him away at night. That treatment is really unique. Quote, I guess that Watson entering the palace at that moment might have something to do with the princess. Even though the Holy Dragon Kingdom does not strictly stipulate that noblemen must marry a wife, Watson's fiancée is the princess. That situation is quite different. I haven't heard of anyone in the kingdom who dares to marry the princess and hang out with other women. Perhaps King Landhar III is dissatisfied with Watson's performance and wants to teach him a lesson. When they saw the royal carriage, some people expressed their envy, while others did not like Watson's good behavior. They silently cursed in their hearts. A young girl wearing a tattered uniform with 2 long scarves around her neck was among those people. She rubbed her painful face and quickened her pace as she walked out of the academy's gates. No matter what a genius like Watson does, there will be many people who will flatter him. I don't know which of them is true, but perhaps all of them are true. I wonder if my dream will come true. Will the same happen to me? Murmuring softly, the girl looked in the direction Watson had left and walked in the opposite direction. Her fingers went into the pockets of her uniform and touched an ice-cold, black and white bead. That girl was Rose Weiser, who had been recruited by Watson and saved during the day. Holding the black and white bead in her pocket, Rose sighed with a self-deprecating expression. After Watson had given her the bead, she had been studying it for the whole afternoon out of curiosity and had not paid much attention to her lessons. As a result, she felt like the bead had no other advantages other than being hard, and she could not see what a potion should look like at all. A potion was made by grinding medicinal ingredients into juice and mixing it according to a special proportion. It was something that could maximize the medicinal properties of each medicinal ingredient. Generally speaking, potions were liquid, but there were also cases of solid substances. However, solid potions would usually give off a medicinal fragrance. For a woman who came from a potion-making family like Rose Weiser, she would be able to know what medicinal ingredients were used to make a potion with a single whiff. The black and white stone in her pocket had a smell when she carefully sniffed it. However, it was different from any medicine she knew. It was a smell that she had never smelled before. Maybe that thing is not a medicine at all. Perhaps Watson randomly brought something to fool me. He wants to use it to make me trust him and help him do things, just like what he did to the other women around him. Maybe he thought that with his looks and talent, he could easily make an ordinary girl like me go crazy, but he's wrong. Rose understood how ordinary she was. Under the influence of her inferiority complex, she was not interested in Watson. She was sure that it was impossible to interact with such a person. On the contrary, she was usually attracted to trash. Even though it might be a gem made of some unknown stone, Watson had given it to me. It's not good to throw it away like that. I'll just take it home first. With her head lowered in dejection, Rose returned to the Abador family. The Abador family was located in a corner not far from the royal city. It was not a luxurious mansion. Outside the courtyard, there were countless vines, and inside, there were also all kinds of trees and flower beds. The entire courtyard, from the inside to the walls, was covered with plants. It looked like a green world. Fresh air and the smell of plants assailed one's nostrils even before one entered the compound. Many servants worked in the courtyard. When they saw that Rose Weiser had returned, many put down the things in their hands and bowed to Rose Weiser. Miss Rose. Rose nodded in response. She quickly walked to the mansion in the deepest part of the courtyard. As soon as she pushed the door open, she heard her father's old and kind voice, "Rose, what's wrong? Your clothes looked like it's in tatters and your face looked injured. Did someone bully you? Who bullied you? Tell us, and we'll avenge you. How dare they bully our youngest sister? Let me know who he is. I will poison his food and make him suffer from diarrhea for a month." A few beautiful voices echoed. Rose raised her head and saw her father, the head of the Abador family, Robin Abador. Her 3 older sisters stood behind him. Her eldest and second sisters had long hair, while her third sister had short hair and wore a dress that revealed half of her shoulders. Regardless of the length of their hair, the 3 older sisters were all very beautiful. That made Rose feel a little sad. They were members of the Abador family, but her 3 older sisters were extremely talented at making potions, and they were also gorgeous. She was the ugly duckling among the beautiful swans. Chapter 438. Recorded in the Kingdom's Annals of History. Recorded in the Kingdom's Annals of History. Father, sisters, I'm fine, and I'm not being bullied. The thing is, the Winter Nation attacked the Academy. Rose Weiser told them everything that had happened at the Royal Academy, but she hid the fact that Watson gave her an offer. She had already thought about rejecting Watson. If her family knew that Watson had tried to rope her in, they might, for the sake of Watson's fame, make her give up her original dream and join Watson instead. It turns out that the people who bullied you are not from the Royal Academy but the Winter Nation. They are really bold. They had clearly forfeited the qualification to participate in the final competition, but they secretly returned to the Academy to cause destruction. Fortunately, the kingdom's strongest genius was there. Robin heaved a sigh of relief and stroked his beard. Rose's second sister, Stella, came to her side and wrapped her arms around Rose's shoulders. "Rose, is the kingdom's strongest genius handsome? After he saved you, did you have any reaction to him? Watson is a very handsome young man. I thanked him properly after he saved me." "Really, Rose, you know that is not what I meant. What I want to know is what you, as a woman, think of Watson. There are many scenes in fairy tales where a hero saves a damsel in distress. Did you and Watson take the opportunity to?" Stella had long hair that covered half of her face. As she spoke, The corners of her mouth curled upward slightly, revealing a somewhat amused expression. "You're so annoying, Sister Stella." Rose blushed and broke away from her sister's embrace. "A genius like Watson would never have anything to do with me. You'd better stop talking nonsense, or I'll ignore you. I'm going to take a shower first." Rose turned around and disappeared from the sight of her family members. That made Stella shrug her shoulders helplessly. "It's just a joke. Rose is still so shy. Even if she can't have anything to do with Watson, it's still good to have a meal with a genius and get close to him." "Forget it, Stella. It's not like you don't know our sister's personality. She is shy. Sometimes, I worry that she won't be able to find a husband if she continues like that." The eldest sister, Priscilla, tried to smooth things over. "Let's continue working. Recently, due to the scarcity of medicinal herbs, the amount of medicine produced has been decreasing. This year, our income from medicine is less than half of what it was in the past few years. At this rate, we must choose to either cut down on expenses or change careers. The potion-making trade is not doing well. It has been like that for quite a while. If it really doesn't work out, we can close half of our stores in the royal city. How about that?" After all, because of His Majesty's policy, the number of geniuses entering the Royal Academy this year is 10 times that of the past. Those geniuses will definitely need potions during their fights. At the same time, the Holy Dragon Kingdom and the Winter Nation might also go to war. When the two kingdoms fight, the supply of potions in the army will also mean a large sum of money for us. I think that as long as we can hold on until then, we still have a chance for revival. We don't know when the war between the Holy Dragon Kingdom and the Winter Nation will start. After all, the Holy Dragon Kingdom is protected by Sword St. Reed, and now there are many geniuses led by Watson. Under such circumstances, will the Winter Nation really dare to invade us? Perhaps we should look forward to Rose's breakthrough in potions. After all, even though she is not good at socializing, her talent in potions is higher than ours. If Rose has a breakthrough in potion making, she might be able to change the current situation of a sluggish potion-making market. The three women and Robin were chatting with each other. Their expressions were somewhat melancholic. Recently, their production was not too ideal, and they were almost at the bottom. They did not tell Rose about those things to protect her from the truth. Instead, they supported Rose in studying at the Royal Academy. However, if the family did not make any changes, they might not even be able to afford the tuition fees for Rose to study at the Royal Academy. The reason why the market for potions in the kingdom has shrunk so much is not only because the potions themselves cannot remove impurities 100%, but also because of the recent appearance of a large number of platinum-tier weapons in the kingdom. Robin sighed. "You all heard that His Majesty recently discovered a breakthrough in the research and development of platinum-tier weapons, leading to the mass production of platinum-tier weapons. Those known as platinum-tier weapon wielders in the Royal Academy's tournament are the best example. Now, as long as you spend 10,000 gold coins to buy a platinum-tier weapon, you can get platinum-tier power. Who would spend money to buy potions that have poor and terrible effects?" That was the core industrial chain of a kingdom. When an industry had a breakthrough, the other industries would either develop or be suppressed. Like potions and weapons, the essence of both industries was to increase the cultivator's strength, and the improvement that a 10,000 gold coin platinum tier weapon could bring was not something that even a 100,000 gold coin platinum tier potion could do. Under such circumstances, no one would buy potions. Speaking of potions, look, there seems to be something on the ground? Just as Robin and the others were feeling troubled, Rose's third sister glanced at the ground. A black and white bead had appeared where Rose had been standing. "What is that? It looks like some kind of gem. Is it one of yours?" Stella asked. Everyone shook their heads and said, "No." Robin touched his chin. "Obviously, that doesn't belong to the family. Judging from the position, Rose must have dropped it. Is it one of her latest potions? But it's the first time I've seen a solid potion as shiny and beautiful as a gemstone." "It's possible. As for whether it's a potion, we'd know after we've tasted it." Stella wiped the surface of the bead and put it in her mouth. Her throat moved, and she subconsciously swallowed her saliva. She felt like the black and white bead seemed to contain some magic power. She wanted to eat it in one gulp. The eldest sister, Priscilla, frowned. "Wait a minute, Stella, why are you so reckless? I haven't confirmed if that is a potion yet. What if that is a gem that Rose bought from a jewelry store?" Even if that is really a potion, if it contains a lethal poison, won't your life be in danger if you swallow it? Sister Priscilla, you're overthinking. It can't be a gem. If a jewelry store sells gems of that color, won't they suffer a great loss? Besides, even if that thing is poisonous, Rose will definitely be able to cure me. Besides, as a gold-tier potion maker, what kind of poison can kill me instantly? Waving her hand to signal Priscilla not to worry, Stella put the bead to her lips and stuck out her tongue. Perhaps this bead is a new type of potion that Rose made from the knowledge she learned at the Royal Academy. I'll just lick it, it's no big deal. I'll just treat it as a test of Rose's achievements in school. As she spoke, Stella could not help but touch the black and white bead with her tongue. The bead had an irresistible attraction. Everything she said to her family members was an excuse. She could not resist the seductive fluctuations from the bead as if she was possessed. Whoosh! As Stella's tongue collided with the black and white bead, it instantly disappeared, turning into a ray of black and white light that entwined and entered her body through her throat. Stella clutched her neck with both hands and began to cough violently. A hazy white light appeared on her body, and white feathers emerged from the surface of her body, tearing the clothes that covered her body. What's going on? That shocking scene shocked everyone. Robin, who was the first to react, quickly approached his daughter and reached out his thick palm to pat her back. Quick, Stella, spit that thing out. Unfortunately, it was too late. Stella did not vomit. Instead, Robin's hand was pushed back by an unknown force. He took a few steps backward and stared at his charred palm in disbelief. The tender flesh of his palm felt as if it had been burned by lightning. DMN it, Stella, I told you not to eat it. It's fine. Go and get Rose, Priscilla shouted anxiously. Just as everyone looked confused and did not know what to do, Stella, who was in pain, suddenly let go of her hand that was holding her neck. She spread her arms, and the feathers on her body turned into faint light spots. 6 enormous wings stretched from her back, followed by a floating glowing circle above her head. A holy chant appeared in the air. Stella's hair was suddenly dyed platinum, and even her eyes and eyelashes were the same color. Slowly, she opened her eyes and stared curiously at her family around her. What's wrong with you, Stella? Why are you asking us? Tell us what's wrong with you. Do you feel unwell? I don't feel unwell. It's more like I'm very comfortable now. It's as if I'm floating in the clouds. Furthermore, my body seems to contain an endless amount of power. Stella raised her right hand, and the hot light formed a dazzling feather coat on the surface of her body. Then, she clenched her fist, and with a bang, the ground immediately exploded, revealing a deep pit that was several meters deep. Robin and the others were so frightened that they hurriedly retreated. I feel like if I punch now, I can blow up a small mountain. My current strength should be at the peak of gold tier. No, it seems to be even higher. Is that the potion developed by Rosé? It's so amazing. Feeling the power of her own strength, Stella noticed the 6 wings on her back and the halo above her head. Wait, what are these wings and the bulge above my head? Is it a tumor? Did the potion change me? Father, look at me. What have I become? As a potion maker, Stella knew that some potions could turn people into non-human creatures to increase their strength. However, non-human creatures were usually hideous. That made Stella terrified. All women loved beauty. If she became ugly because of an increase in her strength, she would rather not have that strength. When she asked in fear, Robin and the others looked at each other with strange expressions. In the end, it was Priscilla who said, Stella, don't panic. You're not ugly. Do you know what you look like now? You're like a race that exists in ancient legends, an angel. Quote, Rose Weiser soaked in the bath and let out a long sigh of relief. As expected, a hot bath is the most enjoyable thing in life, especially after being frightened. It's so comfortable to soak in a hot bath. Lowering her head, Rose looked at the shallow scars on her skin. Recalling the injuries she had suffered during the day at the Royal Academy, her nerves tensed once again. Fortunately, I have Watson's help. Otherwise, these wounds would have become even deeper, and it would be impossible to remove them with potions. I can remove them with some of my gold-tier potions. Rose thought of Watson's invitation to her. At that time, Watson had a handsome smile on his face. That made her feel embarrassed. She buried her head in the water and blew bubbles under the water. Watson saved me, but I still rejected his request. Now that I think about it, My brain must have been damaged at that time. The potion-making industry in the kingdom is already in a terrible state. My family had to bear a lot of responsibility to send me to school. If I borrowed Watson's fame, I could make the trade flourish again. But I only thought about my own dreams. I am really too selfish. Her family had to scrimp and save to send her to school. They had used up a few assets. After all, the tuition fees at the Royal Academy were costly. Even though her family did not say it, she was not a fool and had already noticed it. If abandoning her dream could make her family live a better life, it might not be a bad choice. I wonder if it's too late for me to change my mind now? Watson said that if I changed my mind, I could go to him at any time. Oh, right, he also gave me a strange bead and asked me to study it. I'll take a look and see what that bead is. Rose climbed out of the bath and picked up the tattered uniform that was covered in blood and dust. That uniform was also very expensive. It had cost 1,000 gold coins each, so she did not throw them away. Instead, she planned to wash the clothes and mend them. However, when she picked up the uniform, she realized that the bead was not there. Where is it? After shaking the clothes, Rose fumbled in the bath for a long time. Still can't find it. Did I drop the bead when I arrived home? Recalling everything that had happened after she returned to her family, a bright light flashed in Rose's mind. The bead might have fallen out of her trouser pocket because of a gap in her uniform. I have to find that bead. If Watson knew that I lost it, he would definitely not agree to my request. With that thought in mind, Rose put on her uniform and prepared to go outside to take a look. Just then, she heard the voice of her elder sister, Priscilla, from outside. Something bad has happened, Rose. Things have gotten out of hand because of you. Come out and take a look. What happened? Rose's heart skipped a beat. She had just returned home and had not done anything. What happened? All she could think of was that lost bead. Just as she was speculating, she suddenly heard Priscilla's voice from outside. We found a black and white bead, and Stella ate it. It was just as she had expected. Rose's vision went dark. She felt as if she had been struck by lightning and almost fell on the slippery floor. Watson had given that bead to her. She did not even know what it was for. How could Stella have eaten it? It was too reckless. Before she could react, the bathroom door opened. Her eldest sister, Priscilla, rushed into the room. When she came in front of her, she grabbed her shoulder and shook it. Rose, did you make that black and white bead? No, it wasn't me. It was someone else. I'm sorry, sister. It's my fault. It's all my fault for not looking after that thing. She was worried that something had happened to Stella. Rose began to speak incoherently, tears welling in the corners of her eyes. If that unknown bead had put her sister in danger, she would never forgive herself. Rose, what are you doing? Why are you apologizing to me? Glancing at Rose in confusion, Priscilla smiled. It doesn't matter, Rose. Even if you worked with others to create such a potion, you're really amazing. You're the pride of our family. Huh? Rose's mouth was wide open. She thought that something had happened to Stella after she swallowed the bead, so Priscilla came in to question her. However, it did not seem to be the case. Just as she was puzzled, Robin rushed in with an uncontrollable smile on his face and gave her a thumbs up. Rose, your sister is only half right. To be able to develop such a potion, you're not only the pride of the Abador family, but you're the pride of the kingdom. They can record this moment in the kingdom's annals of history. The kingdom's annals of history? Was it that big of a deal? What was that bead for? Why were her father and sister so excited? Rose was at a loss. At that moment, she saw her second sister, Stella, walk into the bathroom. It was difficult to describe Stella's posture. Her long platinum hair fluttered in the wind. 6 enormous wings flapped, allowing Stella to float in the air easily. Some feather-like spots of light were scattered in the air, making her look holy. Stella looked at Rose, her eyes shining so brightly that Rose did not dare to look directly at her. Rose, I don't know how to thank you. Your potion allowed me to evolve from a human into an angel, and it also allowed me to obtain platinum tier strength. You should have told us about this earlier. There's no need to hide this from us. Platinum tier strength? Angel? Rose Weiser's face twitched when she heard that, and her consciousness began to blur. So the bead that Watson gave her was such a powerful thing, and she had treated it as an inconspicuous thing, completely ignoring it. It was too stupid. But a potion that could turn a person into an angel? Did such a powerful thing really exist? So it's a potion that can turn a person into an angel, and I lost it. People would temporarily give up thinking when they were enduring things that they could not understand. That was how Rose Weiser was in at that moment. After muttering for a short while, her eyes rolled, and she fell to the ground. Chapter 439. The Dragon King. Sister Stella, are you saying that you ate the black and white bead that fell from my body, and then you gained platinum tier strength and became an angel? Rose, that is the 1080th time you've asked me. That's right, it's exactly what you think. Stella looked helplessly at the slightly dazed Rose. It had been half an hour since Rose fainted. After she woke up, Rose kept repeating the question. During that time, Stella and Robin answered Rose's question while asking, from her mouth, they learned the truth about the black and white bead. Rose did not want to say it at first, but under the interrogation of her family, she could not explain herself. After all, Watson had saved her at the Royal Academy, and it was unreasonable for him to give her a black and white bead as a gift. After all, who would give someone a gift after helping them? After being interrogated by her family members, Rose could only tell them that Watson had tried to recruit her, but she had rejected him. Hearing that, her family members all looked at her strangely, as if they were looking at some idiot. Their gazes made her cheeks burn. It turns out that Watson had given Rose some kind of solid potion. It was only given to Rose for her research. I thought that Rose had made a breakthrough. Robin sighed. He looked a little disappointed, but he was happy. Watson was able to create a potion of that level. The impact it would bring to the kingdom's people would be no less than the king's improvement in producing platinum-tier weapons. No, the potions that Watson had developed would have a more significant impact than those platinum-tier weapons. After all, platinum-tier weapons only allowed people to have the means to fight against platinum-tier elites. Still, they could not truly allow them to become a platinum-tier elite. However, potions were different. Robin believed that no one would choose between a platinum-tier weapon or becoming a platinum-tier elite. Sister Stella, are you sure that after eating that black and white bead just now, you've become a platinum-tier angel? Rose Weiser, that is the 1081st time you've asked me. Stella sighed helplessly and reached out to touch her sister's hair. Didn't Watson give you that bead? If you don't believe me, ask him for another bead tomorrow and try it yourself. How about that? Even if he's the kingdom's strongest genius, it's impossible for Watson to carry so many such precious things on him. Perhaps he only has one bead. The eldest sister, Priscilla, crossed her arms as she stood to the side and looked at Stella. She was envious of her sister. She was too cautious. If she were a reckless person like Stella, she would have swallowed the black and white bead that she saw on the ground earlier. Now, she was the one who had transformed into a platinum-tier elite. There were only a few platinum-tier elites in the entire kingdom. On the surface, there were only about 10 of them. Furthermore, Stella could ultimately protect the Abador family, even if the family's trade was in a slump. Moreover, Stella was not an ordinary platinum-tier elite but a platinum-tier angel, stronger than a human of the same level. You are right, Watson gave me that bead to take back to the Abador family for research. He only gave me the right to research, but not the right to use it. Perhaps that thing is very important to him. But my sister ate it before I had the chance to study it. Watson will definitely not be happy if he knows about this. What should we do now? Rose came back to her senses. Her face was flustered, and tears appeared at the corners of her eyes. Half a day ago, she had been disdainful of Watson's offer, but she regretted it then. If she had known that Watson could develop such an epic-making potion, she would have agreed to Watson's proposal at that time. Her dream was to create a perfect potion with no side effects. However, Watson's potion was not only excellent, but its efficacy was also heaven-defying. That was far beyond her dream. Without a doubt, if she stayed by Watson's side, she could easily obtain the method to create the perfect potion. However, she had missed all of that because of her choice. It's all right, Rose. I ate the black and white bead. I'll go to school with you tomorrow and apologize to Watson. Stella patted her chest and promised her. That's all we can do. Robin nodded. Tomorrow, Stella and Rose will go to the Royal Academy with you. Thank Watson properly and buy some gifts to express our gratitude to Watson. Rose, I understand that you don't rely on others and want to make the potion better. However, sometimes, learning to compromise with others is also a paramount quality. After all, there will always be someone better than you. In the Holy Dragon Kingdom, even though the Abador family is known as a potion-making family, our ability to make potions may not be the strongest in the kingdom, so... Father, you don't have to say it. I know. Rose nodded her head vigorously, her gaze becoming firm. Because of my mistake, Watson wasted a precious solid potion. In addition, he saved my life. Tomorrow, I'll find him and tell him that I want to join him. I will repay his gift with my body. Robin, who was consoling her, felt a little awkward when he heard that. Rose. What do you mean by using your body? I did not ask you to do that. Just get close to Watson as usual and be friends with him. It would be even better if you could learn advanced potion-making techniques from him and carry our family forward. As for the other matters, leave them to me. The kingdom's strongest genius has just won the Royal Academy's competition and is openly recruiting talents within the academy. It seems like he is not as simple as only being the strongest genius. Robin said the last sentence in a low voice. The other people did not hear him clearly. As he spoke, he turned his head and glanced at the gradually dimming sky outside the window. His pupils became intense. Rose should have already reached home. I don't know if she has researched the bead I gave her. If she can thoroughly research it, it will prove that she is outstanding in potions. She can help me in the future. The average person in the kingdom did not think that potions were important. They thought that potions were one-time items and would only be used when necessary. Furthermore, many people had prejudices against potions. They believed that taking too many potions would not only gain strength but also cause damage to the body. Of course, all of those were true. However, that was the previous kingdom. With the fusion system, Watson could create potions that did not have any side effects. Furthermore, the potion's abilities would be quite divine, and he believed that no one would be able to resist the temptation. Creating and selling the blessings of the gods and demons was Watson's second step in conquering the kingdom. Using the temptation of becoming a platinum-tier elite, Watson would be able to quickly rope in a group of loyal geniuses by his side. When the king found out about that, he would probably be even more inseparable from Watson because of his greed for the effects of the platinum-tier potion. While Watson was thinking, an authoritative voice suddenly sounded in front of him. Watson, I called you here to help me forge a weapon. Why are you daydreaming? Do you not take my words seriously, or do you not want to help me forge a suitable weapon? Raising his head, Watson saw King Landhar III sitting opposite him. Other than King Landhar III, Sidi, who looked like Ash, was also there, lazily leaning against the chair. Watson doesn't even listen to the words of a goddess like me, let alone a mortal king like you. Furthermore, you asked the three of us to act together and go to the Royal Academy to kill Watson. I'm afraid Watson is displeased with you because of that. Sidi, don't spout nonsense. I allowed you to go to Watson because you and I had an agreement in advance. I am a person with credibility, and I don't have any intention of letting you kill Watson. Furthermore, I had already expected that you would not be a match for Watson with your strength. The fact that you are the only one who returned is proof. In my opinion, even if the six of you attacked together, you would not be able to do anything to Watson. King Landhar III sneered in the face of Sidi's ridicule. On the other hand, when you captured Watson, you actually attacked the other people from the Royal Academy and almost destroyed the Royal Academy. You attacked so rashly and still want me to clean up the aftermath for you. King Landhar III, we are gods. Can't we crush a few ants? Furthermore, you've already admitted that you never intended for us to kill Watson from the start, so what's the meaning of the bet you made with us? I only agreed to give you a place to compete with Watson. As for whether you can fulfill your request, that will depend on your own strength. Do mortals like to play that kind of word game? King Landhar III and Sidi argued. Neither side gave way to the other. Watson yawned and quickly looked at the hundreds of holy relics piled up on the ground in front of him. After leaving the Royal Academy, he was immediately invited to the royal palace by the king. After inquiring, he found out that King Landhar III had asked for him to help him refine a Starlight-tier weapon, and the holy relics were all there. The Campbell family was the best in the kingdom in forging magical tools. However, the family only had about 100 holy relics, and King Landhar III had more than that. He even asked Watson whether that was enough. If it was not enough, he could add more. You summoned me over for such a small matter. This is too troublesome. You could have sent these holy relics to the Sword Saint's courtyard, and I could have done it there. Are you worried that I will hide the extra holy relics, or do you want to watch me make weapons in person? Watson speculated that in his heart. He had previously promised King Landhar III that he would help him make a good weapon, and since he had agreed, he had to do it. Fusion system, activate. Taking advantage of the argument between King Landhar III and Sidi had yet to end, Watson activated the system on the 100 holy relics in front of him. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing a large number of holy relics. You have obtained a Peak Starlight Tier Tool. Peak Starlight Tier Tool. The God King's Throne of Commandments. Abilities. Absolute control. Words will become law and will be obeyed by others. God's code. The law formed by the perfection of words can restrict the ruled kingdom. The more perfect the law, the stronger the binding force. Pope. In the ruled kingdom, all the abilities released will be recorded, including Starlight Tier abilities, and the user can freely use these abilities. King. Can confer titles to any of the people in the kingdom. After being conferred, it will significantly increase the strength. Raising the level is related to the people's original talent and strength. Additional abilities. God King's Army. Can summon a Starlight Tier soldier with the strength of a god to defend oneself. Dustless Land. Activate the protective shield so that no one can get close to the throne. Even if a god recklessly enters, he will be crushed. The throne's commandment. The throne is an ability that surpasses the divine kingdom. Those below the sovereign tier won't be able to use it. As the fusion was completed, the holy relics in front of Watson instantly turned into rays of light and fused, turning into a throne more than 3 meters tall and emitting divine radiance. The throne was in the shape of a mountain, and clouds surrounded the back of it. From afar, it seemed very tall, and if one were to look closely at the meteorites on the throne that looked like fragments of stars, a nebula would drift out from it and spin faintly. It made one's mind be sucked into it, and one could not help but show an intoxicated expression. The Starlight Tier weapon fused from hundreds of holy relics is indeed powerful. Judging from its power, it has already surpassed the weapons that I fused for my 2 masters and even surpassed the books of wisdom and other weapons that I created previously. Watson could not help but sigh. As the monarch, not only did King Landhar III have a lot of holy relics, but the quality was also better than the Campbell families. The result was a Peak Starlight Tier weapon that was only a little less than the Sovereign Tier. In terms of power, the God King's Throne of Commandments could freely set the rules in a restricted kingdom and do whatever it wanted. Even the elites who had the power of a divine kingdom would be controlled. Once they used their power, the throne would record it, thus, allowing King Landhar III to use it. The most powerful part of that weapon was that as long as King Landhar III released the God King's Throne of Commandments, no one in the kingdom would be able to use even the slightest bit of power, and the attack had the protection of the God King's army that consisted of Sovereign Tier soldiers. The defense had a super strong shield like the Dustless Land. As long as one sat on the throne, their attack and defense would be one. There was no flaw. It is as I expected of Watson. He helped you to create the weapon you wanted so quickly. King Landhar III noticed the light flashing in front of Watson and immediately stopped arguing with Sidi. He turned around with a burning gaze and came in front of Watson. Admiring the huge throne, King Landhar III breathed heavily. If he had not been king for many years and had a firm will, he would have already pounced on the throne. Before Watson made the weapon, King Landhar III was a little nervous. He did not know what kind of weapon Watson would make. As a king, he would lose his dignity if the weapon was not as good as the ones Watson made for Antonio and Reed. However, at that moment, after seeing the throne Watson made, he was very sure that it was what he wanted. What else could better reflect his majesty than a glittering throne that symbolized the supremacy of power? Watson, that throne that looks very good. In terms of appearance, I am very satisfied. I wonder what its effects are. Even though he was very satisfied with the appearance of the throne, King Landhar III still asked. That throne's ability is very simple. First of all, it can write rules. Those rules are different from the rules that the kingdom currently has. It will cover all parts of the kingdom in an invisible way. At the same time, if you violate the contents of the law, you will be severely punished. Watson used the throne in front of him to release God's code. For example, I now stipulate that women must kneel and sit in front of men in the room. If they don't do so, they will be flogged. Whoosh! With Watson's voice, Seedy, who had been leaning against the chair with her legs crossed, suddenly trembled and rolled down from the chair, kneeling on the ground. Hey, Watson, you don't have to use me to test out new weapons, do you? Seedy shouted and wanted to get up from the ground. However, just as she moved, golden vines appeared in the void behind her. The vines were covered with sharp barbs, like small swords, and they hit Seedy's back hard. Soon, her clothes and her skin were torn. I'm sorry, Seedy, you're a god, after all. I think it'll be better if I use you to show off. Watson's tone was apologetic, but there was no hint of apology on his face. After all, Seedy had tried to harm him many times, and he wanted to take revenge for what she had done. You can actually suppress a body that has the power of a god. Not bad. Does that weapon have any other magical abilities? Of course. Its main offensive ability is called the God King's Army. It can summon a large number of soldiers. Every soldier has the power of a god, and the number of soldiers summoned depends on one's strength. Watson spread his legs and sat on the throne. The moment he sat on the throne, a layer of glittering and gorgeous robes appeared on his body. The robes were painted with the sun, the moon, and stars. At the same time, a crown of falling starlight appeared on top of his head. His entire face was blurred, leaving only a pair of eyes that looked like the eyes of a god looking down on all living things. God King's Army, activate. 8 figures appeared around his throne. Each figure was covered in heavy armor and held a long spear in their hands. Other than the cloak made of starlight behind them, only a heavy, thunder-like whistle reverberated in the bedroom. That is the God King's Army? It doesn't look like much. Seedy rubbed her back and got up from the ground. Watson had cancelled the rule that had just been declared when he summoned the God King's Army, so Seedy no longer had to kneel on the floor. At that moment, seeing the warrior who was covered in thick armor and covered in starlight in front of Watson, Seedy showed a nonchalant look and extended her right hand to one of the soldiers. Perhaps I can defeat that soldier with one hand. Surely there is a difference between a Starlight tier weapon and a true Starlight tier elite like me. Ow, pain, pain, pain. Halfway through her words, Seedy's expression suddenly twisted because her palm was grabbed by the soldier closest to her. Grabbing her palm, the soldier's armored hand exerted a little force and pinched Seedy's hand until it deformed. Let go. You be asterisk starred. Seedy jerked her arm, but the soldier's hand did not move at all. On the contrary, seeing that the other party did not let go, Seedy raised her right leg and kicked the armor on the soldier's chest. There was a loud sound, but the armor on the soldier's chest was not damaged at all. On the other hand, Sid's right leg was injured. She hugged her right leg and cried out comically on the ground in pain. That is the power of the God King's Army. It is not bad, worthy of its name. King Landhar III ignored Seedy as he nodded in satisfaction. Next, I want to show the throne's defensive ability, the Dustless Land. Watson waved his hand again, and a light screen immediately shot up around the throne, covering the sky and the sun. The ground and walls in front of the light screen were shattered. Even though the soldier, which Seedy did not manage to break with her full strength kick, was the closest to the throne, the armor on his body began to crack because of the soaring screen of light. The last thing I want to show is the most powerful ability, the throne's commandments. Watson opened his hands, and an invisible wave spread out from his body. After that wave appeared, the energy wave in the entire air disappeared. Seedy was originally in a sorry state because of the God King's Army. At that moment, she was shouting, "A god's phantom summoned by a mere weapon dares to be impudent in front of me?" A divine kingdom formed by shadows and covered with tentacles appeared under her feet. Each of the tentacles held different types of potions. She was about to use the tentacles to surround the God King's Army and use the potions to melt the heavy armor on them. At that moment, the invisible wave from Watson and the throne swept over her body, making the divine kingdom and the potion on the tentacles disappear. Huh? Seedy knelt on the ground again. The soldier pinched her fingers until they creaked. She grimaced in pain. Stop pinching me. I was wrong. I was just joking. Arg. After testing the ability of the throne, Watson walked down from the throne. When he saw Seedy kneeling on the ground begging for mercy, he waved his hand to dismiss the God King's Army. Your Majesty, those are the basic abilities of the weapon I made. What do you think about it? Good, I like it very much. As your reward for making such a good weapon, you can stay in the palace to eat and get closer to my daughter, Kiana. Your Majesty, let's forget about dinner. Watson's face turned bitter, and he secretly criticized King Landhar III for being stingy. He had helped create such a powerful weapon, but King Landhar III had only let him stay for dinner with Kiana. That was not a reward but a punishment. However, before he could finish, King Landhar III interrupted him. Watson, what do you want to say? Another fire at home that needs putting out? Even if your house is completely burned today, you are not allowed to leave. Yes, Your Majesty, I understand. If you understand, then go change your clothes. Besides the royal family members, there is also a distinguished guest from abroad. You must dress up to show your respect to her. King Landhar III urged him with a half-smile on his face. Watson nodded and agreed, thinking that it seemed like King Landhar III did not invite him there just to let him make weapons but for other purposes. After he left, King Landhar III looked at the throne before him, and his eager eyes gradually cooled. His expression became calm. Sidi, what do you think of the throne? Who is better or worse than the weapons used by the real gods in the divine realm? Quote, in my opinion, that weapon is already better than the weapons used by ordinary gods. I don't even have such a powerful weapon. Sidi rubbed her sore arm and said unhappily, by the way, if there is such a thing next time, can't you get someone else to do it? I am a dignified goddess, but I was destroyed in front of Watson. Do I not care about my dignity as well? What does it matter? Anyway, you have already reached an agreement with Watson, haven't you? You know about that? King Landhar III smiled slightly. When he had guided the three gods to the Holy Dragon Kingdom, he had been worried that Watson would not be able to defeat them, so he had secretly sent people to observe them. In the end, he had seen something interesting. There is nothing that I don't know in the kingdom. Just like how that throne can seal all the divine kingdoms, I am the absolute ruler of this kingdom. Wherever I look, it is my land, and above that is my kingdom. Using a calm tone to say those domineering words, King Landhar III turned to look at Sidi as she secretly curled her lips. I don't care about your intentions. I just want to ask you one thing. Are you on my side or Watson's side? Quote, Mortal King, watch your words. I am a god, so I will only stand on the side of the victor. King Landhar III was stunned for a moment before he laughed. I am relieved to hear you say that. While he was talking to Sidi, a woman's voice suddenly came from outside. Your Majesty, I'm Emma. I have something to report. Come in. A beautiful woman in revealing clothes walked in under King Landhar III's orders. She glanced at Sidi, then knelt on the ground as if she did not care about her. Your Majesty, just now, the leader of the Dragon Clan, Lady Fafnir, and two of her subordinates have entered the kingdom. Oh, they're already here. They're faster than I expected. In that case, the banquet tonight should begin as soon as possible. King Landhar III turned around and sat on the huge throne Watson had just created. His body leaned against the back of the throne and gently touched the patterns on it. His brows gradually relaxed. I was a little worried about how the banquet would develop tonight, but with this thing, I'm not afraid anymore. Outside the capital, on a busy main road leading to the palace, a young girl wearing a long sky blue dress with two curved horns in her hair was walking on the road. Her sky blue hair was like a burning flame. Her eyes were different from ordinary people's. They were vertical in shape, and the color was the color of blue waves. It was as if there was a violent ocean within them. It's been a long time since I've been to the capital. I really miss it. The blue-haired girl patted her hair that had been blown by the wind, revealing a thoughtful expression. She was like a burning blue dahlia, and with the two dragon horns on her head, she became the most beautiful scene on the road. Many pedestrians were staring at her. Some were so engrossed in watching that they did not even notice the road ahead and bumped into the wall. Who is that? She looks so imposing, and the dragon horns on her head don't look human. I've heard about a group of extremely powerful existences in the Dragon Clan called the Dragon Kings. A dragon with the strength of a dragon king can transform into a human. Could it be? Whispers came from all around and reached the blue-haired girl's ears, causing her to smile. Really, Olena, what are you lamenting over there? Hurry up and come here to welcome Lady Fafnir. As a dragon, it's really rude of you to act before your master gives the order. I'm here, Sister Rem. The blue-haired girl immediately turned her head when she heard the voice. She ran to the front of a carriage as everyone looked at her in shock. The blue-haired girl lowered her head respectfully and pulled open the curtain of the carriage. A girl with long pink wavy hair, about the same height as the blue-haired girl, supported a girl wearing a black gothic gown and a black top hat as she walked out of the carriage. The girl looked to be only 11 or 12 years old. Her tender cheeks were almost no different from those of an ordinary human. Even her pupils were similar to that of a human's ruby-like eyes. However, she was wearing male clothing, so the girl looked somewhat boyish. Thump, thump, as she knocked the black cane in her hand on the ground, the girl raised her hand and tidied the brim of her hat. I haven't been here for almost 100 years since I signed a contract with them. I did not expect that there would be such a great change here. As expected, for humans, even though their vitality and strength aren't comparable to the dragons, their creativity is still very rich. Lady Fafnir is right. The pink-haired dragon girl, Rem, and the blue-haired girl, Olenna, complimented her. They were the relatives of a few dragon kings of the dragon clan who took care of Fafnir, the being on the metal and fire throne. Fafnir was a particularly powerful existence among the dragon kings, and her fire dragon nest was not far from the kingdom. The dragon clan had always provided dragons to the Holy Dragon Kingdom, allowing the kingdom to nurture dragon knights. As a price, the Holy Dragon Kingdom had to seek peaceful living conditions for the dragon clan. However, all of that has been broken. They dared to kill a dragon under my command and even turned it into meat. And King Landhar III's explanation for that was that it was a mistake. A mere human killed one of my people, and he actually said that it was a mistake and gave me a pile of platinum-tier scrap iron. He's too bold. Fafnir opened her mouth, and the air she spat out distorted the space. The high temperature made people feel suffocated even if they stood far away. Even the ground beneath her feet cracked due to the high temperature and gradually melted into magma. That made many of the surrounding residents retreat in fear. Lady Fafnir, the human king's behavior is unforgivable. However, the platinum-tier weapons he sent to our nest are quite good, the blue-haired Olenna said. Ram, who was beside her, also said, no, to Lady Fafnir, a mere platinum-tier weapon is not even worth mentioning. After all, we have diamonds and even more powerful weapons. Don't you agree, Lady Fafnir? Since we've arrived at the royal city, we only need to find the human king, chop off his head, and hang it on the city wall. We just need to let him understand the consequences of underestimating the dragons. There's no need to act so rashly. When we entered the city, I don't know if you felt any strange fluctuations. I felt as if my power was sealed, even though it was for a moment. Fafnir shook her head and withdrew the power in her body, causing the melting ground under her feet to begin to cool down. Rem and Olenna shook their heads at the same time. I'm sorry, Lady Fafnir. We did not feel anything unusual. Really? Then forget it. In short, there is some kind of powerful force in that city. We'd better be careful before meeting the human king. After that, Fafnir turned around and returned to the carriage. The carriage continued to move toward the palace. Rem and Olenna looked at each other, their eyes filled with indifference. In their eyes, a mere royal city could be destroyed at any time. If it were not because the dragon clan had limited numbers due to their reproductive difficulties and their warlike nature, their ancestors had set a rule of peaceful coexistence with humans to survive. Otherwise, in their eyes, humans were nothing more than weaklings and rations that could be slaughtered at will. Even with the rules set by their ancestors, they still looked down on humans. The dragons had strong bodies, invulnerable scales, and dragon magic that was close to the runes. Humans were nothing to them. Most of the stories of the dragon-slaying warriors in fairy tales were made up because even 10,000 people at the same level might not be able to defeat a dragon, and the number of people needed to kill a dragon was even greater. Using the advantage in numbers to defeat a dragon was one thing, but distorting reality in fairy tales and turning the credit of tens of thousands of people into one person was something that only weak humans could do. As for the mysterious fluctuations that Fafnir mentioned, Rem and Olenna did not feel them. They thought that Fafnir might have been wrong. What danger would they have in the human kingdom? Reed was the only person worthy of praise in that kingdom, but Reed was not a match for Fafnir. Just as they were thinking about that, suddenly a youth dressed in black walked toward them with a displeased expression. The youth's fiery red hair fluttered in the wind, and he did not raise his head. He seemed to be indifferent to the matter in front of him, but he was mumbling something. DMN Watson, he made me owe 900 holy relics. I am too ashamed to return to the Campbell family. I believe that annoying Lily has already told everyone in the family about that. How do I get so many holy relics? The young man walking on the road was Augustus. Since he had lost the bet with Watson, he no longer dared to return to the Campbell family. However, the family had used up all the holy relics in order to transform him, but he had incurred more debts. He felt bad. As Augustus grumbled, he was getting closer to the carriage where the three dragons were. Just as they were about to collide, Rem, who was in charge of driving the carriage, said coldly, "Human, don't you know how to watch where you're going? If you don't want to die, get lost." Huh? Augustus, who was already upset, raised his head, and a red light flashed in his eyes. "How dare you talk to me like that? I think you're the ones who want to die." Quote. Then, Augustus' body exploded with a volcanic aura. The powerful airflow broke through the clothes covering his body, revealing his metal arms that were shining with platinum light. The dagger-like barbs on his arms made Rem, who was about to refute it, suck in a breath of cold air. His body is constructed with magical items. Kid, who are you? Not only was Augustus' diamond tier aura incredible, but his modified appearance was also terrifying. What's wrong? Does it matter who I am? Weren't you threatening me just now? Why are you acting so cowardly now? Brat, we have important matters in the capital. We don't have the time to tangle with a brat like you. However, since you've already said it to that extent, then I won't be polite. As Rem spoke, she abruptly left the carriage. Her long, wavy pink hair fluttered even though there was no wind. Flower petals appeared around her body. Each of those flower petals was made of flames and had yet to land on the ground. The scorching temperature made the air emit a burning smell. Platinum tier dragon magic, sea of flames. It's only platinum tier magic. Haven't you eaten? Furthermore, you're playing with fire. You're not qualified. In the face of a large number of pink petals that were attacking him, Augustus still sneered. He opened his mouth and swallowed all of the petals. Even Reed would not have dared to do so. After all, no matter how strong the defense of a diamond tier warrior was, his internal organs were still very weak. In addition, the dragon's breath was extraordinary. Augustus, whose entire body had been modified and could not even feel pain, was the only one who could withstand that attack. After swallowing the flame, Augustus burped and said, "Not only is the temperature not enough, but its explosive power is also terrible. It's really disgusting. I'll give it back to you." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Augustus spat a huge pink fireball from his mouth. It was as if a small sun had enveloped Rem. How could this be? Faced with that unbelievable scene, Rem did not even have time to dodge. Not only did a mere human withstand her attack, but he actually launched an even more powerful one against her. He was more like a monster than a dragon. What was going on? Chapter 440, in shock. Boom. Run. Young Master Augustus is fighting with someone. The street is about to explode. With Augustus' character, if we run too slowly, we will be in danger. A deep pit that was dozens of meters long was blasted out of the street. The houses nearby were blown away. The walls of the houses further away were cracked and almost collapsed. Most of the walls were burned. A group of passers-by ran in all directions. At the center of the explosion, Rem's body was covered by a cloud of black smoke. No one could see her. You can't even withstand a single blow. I won before I used any strength. Augustus showed a disdainful look. Who said you won? A deep and sexy voice was heard, accompanied by a roar. Roar. The dragon's roar resounded in all directions. In the place where the smoke covered, a dragon covered in petal-shaped scales and carrying an ancient burning tree on its back appeared from the ground. Even if its wings were retracted, it was still dozens of meters long. It looked like a small mountain floating in the air. It's a dragon. A giant dragon has appeared in the capital. The residents became even more afraid when they saw the dragon that Rem had transformed into. They instantly retreated, leaving a suitable distance for Augustus and Rem to fight. You still have the power to fight? That's fine, I'll play with you. Augustus's lips twitched. Pride flashed across his eyes. On his raised arms, sharp blade-like platinum-tier weapons popped up from the joints. His thick arms instantly disintegrated and turned into weapons. Each weapon was wrapped in a different colored battle aura glow. At the same time, the platinum-tier weapons on Augustus' thighs and back also popped out, making him look like a war behemoth with countless weapons stuck in his body and the appearance of a human. Human, these weapons on your body seem to be platinum-tier, and there are no less than 100 of them. The combined power of 100 platinum-tier weapons is enough to kill a diamond-tier dragon. I haven't been here for a long time, but I didn't expect such a genius to appear in the kingdom. You must be the strongest genius among the younger generation in the kingdom, but to exchange power like this is not an excellent way. The Dragon King, Fafnir, flew out of the carriage. Her body was wrapped in scorching red flames, which burned a hole in the top of the carriage. Then, the scarlet flames expanded endlessly and turned into a huge flaming throne in the air, Fafnir sitting on it. The blazing throne was surrounded by fireballs of various sizes, which lit up the entire royal city. Fafnir's eyes flickered. In her opinion, fusing 100 platinum-tier weapons into one's body to obtain power was a foolish act because that was equivalent to destroying the possibility of cultivating to a higher level in the future. However, humans were a race with a very short lifespan and weak talent. In the limited lifespan of more than 100 years, humans could not raise their strength to be as powerful as other races that were blessed by nature. It was understandable that they would only find another way. Young man, you are not my match. If a genius like you were to die at my hands, I think the Holy Dragon Kingdom's king would be heartbroken. Now, I will give you a choice. Kneel and apologize to my family. I will excuse your rudeness just now. Fafnir's voice was calm as she shook her legs. The power contained in her words made everyone's heart tremble. They could not help but feel afraid. As she spoke, the huge fireballs floating around the throne expanded one after another. Any one of them would be enough to turn the entire capital into ashes. Faced with such a terrifying scene, Augustus' expression did not change at all. Instead, he curled his lips. You've been calling me the strongest genius. Don't you know how annoying you are? You're not worthy enough to make me kneel. Fafnir thought that a strong person at Augustus' age, even though he had borrowed power, would still be able to contend against the dragon race. That was enough to prove Augustus' strength. Even if he was not Sword Saint Reed, his strength was not far behind. Therefore, she believed that Augustus was the kingdom's strongest genius. Who would have thought that her words would poke Augustus' heartstrings? Augustus thought that he could become the kingdom's strongest genius after fusing with the holy relics. It was not until he met Watson in the battle that he realized if the other party did not respect his will to fight, they could just wave their hands and make him lose. Then, he lost to Nia, which meant that he lost to 2 geniuses in a row. As a result, he was ranked 3rd in the kingdom. Augustus had always held a belief in his heart. He had also learned from the great figure who had the same name as him in ancient times and was known as the Dark Consul. If he were not first, then whether it was 2nd, 3rd, or other rankings, it would be meaningless because people would only remember the first place. As he was thinking, Augustus heard the passers-by talking. What did the dragon say? Augustus is the strongest genius in the kingdom? What a joke. He is only the 3rd or 4th genius in the kingdom. I can't remember the exact ranking. A resident shook his head. He said, these dragons are a little ignorant. Not far away from him, his companion also said, Augustus ranked the 3rd, and Miss Christina ranked 4th. Even though he is 3rd, everyone knows that the differences between the geniuses are very high. There is not much difference between the 1st and 2nd ranking, but the difference between the 1st and 3rd place is heaven and earth. The words reached Fafnir's ears. She frowned. Young man, do you really rank 3rd? A few days ago, Fafnir had learned that a dragon had been killed and cooked. She was there that day because she heard that the Holy Dragon Kingdom had held a competition to rank the geniuses in the kingdom. The ranking had been established through the Royal Academy's competition. A dragon had died, so she wanted the lives of those geniuses in exchange. Fafnir felt like it was good revenge. That was the only way to deal with arrogance, and that was to use violence to stomp them under their feet. That was how the Dragon Clan did things. In Fafnir's view, the Dragon Clan and the Holy Dragon Kingdom had signed a treaty for the Dragon Knights that had not changed for a long time. Their opponent might think that they had tamed them. She was there to correct their ridiculously wrong views. You keep calling me a young man. Aren't you younger than me? Also, your guess was right. I'm the kingdom's 3rd ranking genius. Although I'm ranked third, it's enough to crush all of you. Shameless boasting. You're not even a match for me, let alone Lady Fafnir. Let me end your weak life now. The pink dragon that Rem had transformed into was different from other dragons. Instead of scales, it had long wings covered with petal-shaped feathers. A flower with 6 petals grew on the ancient tree on its back. It gradually bloomed in all directions. Countless pollen grains fell from the flower. Some of the passers-by hit by the pollen fell to the ground, while others twitched their limbs, their eyes and mouths crooked. The pollen was mainly used to attack Augustus. He was wrapped in large clumps of pollen, but Augustus' expression did not change. I can feel that the pollen contains anesthetic and other unknown toxins. If I were made of flesh and blood, I might get a headache from this. Unfortunately, my body is entirely made up of platinum-tier weapons. This will not cause any harm to me at all. You've been talking big for a long time, but in the end, this is the move you used. I'm really disappointed in you. Don't worry, the real power is yet to come. That is just a basic ability that I have mastered as a flower fairy dragon, and the most powerful move derived from this move is called the Infinite Flower Sea's Exploding Breath. Hovering in the air, the giant dragon that Rem had transformed into pointed its back at Augustus. Only then did Augustus realize that the ancient tree behind Rem was not a tree at all but a natural cannon barrel. At that moment, indescribable energy had gathered inside, lighting the pollen floating in the sky like they were bombs. Augustus' face paled. There were countless pollen grains floating around him. When all the pollen exploded, the impact force contained in it would probably blow up the entire royal city in an instant. Rem was about to detonate her move, and Fafnir, floating in midair, suddenly waved her hand. Rem, we're here to renegotiate with the kingdom and let them know how powerful we are. We are no longer arrogant, and we are not here to destroy them. The power of your move is too great, and it will destroy the capital. Stop it now. As for the youth in front of us, since he is not the #1 genius, there is no point in making things difficult for him. The fire elemental power that filled the countless pollen floating in the sky dissipated instantly when Fafnir waved her hand. The pollen began to burn silently in the air, gradually disappearing. Even the pollen that entered the residents' bodies was completely burned under Fafnir's control, but it did not cause any damage to the human body. The residents did not even notice that the power had reached a terrifying level. I almost killed this arrogant kid. Your wish is my command, Lady Fafnir. Ram's dragon body shrank in midair and returned to the original pink long-haired girl with wavy hair. She glared at Augustus. Kid, consider yourself lucky. This time, Lady Fafnir has mercifully let you go. Next time, you won't be so lucky. You're the lucky one. Next time I see you, I'll tear your body into pieces and eat them. I heard that some time ago, someone cooked a dragon in the Holy Dragon Tavern. I wonder what it tastes like. Augustus deliberately licked his lips, causing Rem's expression to turn livid. Fafnir's expression was as calm as ever. Young man, some things can't be said carelessly. Seeing that you are still a human cub, I will not argue with you. In return, you will tell me who is the #1 genius in your kingdom. Her original plan was to wait for the Holy Dragon Kingdom to complete the genius ranking, then capture the #1 genius and kill him in front of King Landhar III to comfort the spirits of the dead dragon. If that were still not useful, then she would start with the next genius and kill them one by one. Once all the geniuses were dead, the Holy Dragon Kingdom would have no successor. No matter how tough King Landhar III was, he would only be able to kneel at her feet and beg for mercy. In order to do so, the prerequisite was that she had first to find the first genius of the kingdom and control him. How would I know where the #1 genius is? If you want to find him yourself. Don't bother me. Augustus snorted impatiently. He did not answer. Instead, he turned around and walked in the opposite direction of Fafnir and the others. Don't move. Don't even think about leaving before answering Lady Fafnir's orders. Before he could take a few steps, Rem had arrived behind him. His fingernail-sharp palm was pressed against the back of his neck. Olenna had also attacked him. While pointing her palm at him, she said, "There shouldn't be any unspeakable information about who the kingdom's #1 genius is. Don't tell me that you have some sort of grudge with the kingdom's #1 genius, such as being beaten in a battle or cheated of money." Olenna was only probing, but Augustus' mouth twitched because she had hit both of those points. Stop bullsh asterisk tting. I have nothing to do with the number 1 genius, and I didn't lose 900 holy relics to him because I lost a bet with him. I'm wandering because I don't know how to repay him. Augustus retorted coldly, but unexpectedly. Rem and Olenna, who were behind him, looked at each other, puzzled. How was that not related? It was a feud. Taking a deep breath, Augustus looked at a place not far from the street. You want to find Watson? I don't know where he is now, but I know where the second-ranked genius is. If you find her, you might be able to find Watson. Where is the kingdom's second-ranked genius? Right there. He pointed at the 2 people at a certain spot on a nearby street. One of them was Nia, who was wearing a long skirt with iris flowers, and the other was Kiana, who was also wearing a luxurious long skirt. The 2 of them were arguing about something. Nia, the banquet tonight is organized by my father, and it's for Watson and the foreign guests. I hope you won't follow him anymore. It's very rude for a nobleman to appear in an inappropriate place. Didn't your family teach you? Kiana placed her hands on her hips as she fiercely reprimanded Nia, who was following behind her. Your Highness, what you said makes sense. It's indeed inappropriate for me to appear at the banquet with my current identity. Nia lowered her head. She nodded in agreement. If I change into the clothes of a waiter, I won't appear out of place at the banquet. What do you think? It has nothing to do with what you wear. I'm saying that I want you to stay away from Watson. I don't know how your brain works. You clearly have such powerful strength, but you don't understand what I'm saying. Forget it. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. In any case, just don't go to the banquet tonight. Kiana covered her forehead. She turned around and found a pink-haired girl in front of her. She was shocked. Who are you? You don't know who I am? Rem was also a little surprised. She and Augustus had been fighting in the vicinity for a long time. As long as they were not blind, they should have seen them. Was Kiana blind? If you don't tell me, how would I know who you are? Let me introduce myself. I am Rem, a relative of the Dragon King who is in charge of the Metal and Fire Throne. I have been ordered to ask the princess and this second-ranked genius to help us find someone. So you are from the Dragon Clan. I'm sorry, you guys are so unremarkable that I don't notice you. If it were not an extremely impactful meeting, it would not have left an impression on me. Since you're a member of the Dragon Clan, then you're the distinguished guests that Father is hosting tonight. By the way, who are you looking for? Watson. Watson? Why are you looking for him? Kiana frowned in puzzlement. Your Highness, there's no need to ask so many questions. You just need to tell me where this person is. I guess he should be in the palace at the moment because I saw someone take him to the palace after school. So he's in the palace. Rem chewed on it, thinking that it would not conflict with where they were going next. Their first priority after entering the capital was also the palace, but since he was there, they only needed to rush there. As he thought, Rem glanced at Kiana and Nia beside him. Since they were going to capture the kingdom's number 1 genius and threaten him, it was best not to let go of the second genius and the seemingly weak princess. If the loss of the kingdom's genius could not make King Landhar III upset, then it would be different with the princess. Rem felt like they should not give up on the good opportunity. She extended her hand toward Kiana. As a dragon, this is the first time I've come to the human capital. I don't know where the palace is. Please lead the way for us, Your Highness. What? Before Rem's palm touched Kiana's, Nia reached her hand outward and collided with Rem's in the air. Nia did not move at all. Rem took 2 steps backward and looked at her hand in disbelief. She found a layer of frost on her palm. The energy movement on the skin near the ice had stopped entirely. What's going on? As a diamond-tier flower fairy dragon, Rem was very confident in her strength. As the name implied, the flower fairy dragon was a kind of dragon that grew trees on its back and could bloom beautiful flowers on them. Among the thousands of dragon species, the flower fairy dragon lived underground. The trees on its back absorbed the magic elements between heaven and earth to become stronger. It was a relatively gentle dragon species, but its pollen, which was full of paralyzing effects and highly toxic, and its ability to turn pollen into explosives made the flower fairy dragon a well-known figure among the dragon species for its destructive power. In addition, Rem was a genius among the flower fairy dragon species, which was why she was fortunate to follow Fafnir as a personal maid. When she was facing Augustus, she was full of contempt. However, after being slapped by Nia, a wave of fear rose in her heart. A trace of coldness flowed into her body through her palm. It was as if she was going to turn into an ice sculpture that would never move. The power in this girl's body is much stronger than the third-ranked genius. I can actually feel the aura that only Lady Fafnir has in her body. Rem cursed in her heart. At that moment, she heard Kiana's voice. Nia, what are you doing? This dragon lady invited me. Don't get involved. Hurry back to the Saint Laurent family. If your family can't find you, they might get anxious. I can lead them to the palace. Rem was surprised. In the dragon clan, weak dragons had to show great respect to powerful existences, or else they would risk death. However, in the human world, it seemed to be reversed. Kiana, who clearly did not have much power, reprimanded Nia, but Nia did not say a single word. Amazing. This is the strength of the kingdom's second genius. Even I feel a chill down my spine. I didn't expect such a powerful existence to appear in the kingdom. This makes me look forward to the kingdom's first genius even more. What kind of person is he? While Rem was thinking, Fafnir brought Olenna to Nia and the other two girls. She clapped her hands and praised them. Her eyes looked back and forth at Nia. She could clearly feel that Nia had enormous power. The power was so cold that even Fafnir rarely saw it in any dragon. Obviously, the girl in front of her looked like a human. However, she was a monster. No wonder when King Landhar III killed my clansmen, he only sent over a pile of platinum-tier weapons. He said that he accidentally killed the dragon, and that was it. It turns out that a genius of this level has appeared in the kingdom, which makes him very confident. Even if I attack with all my strength, I might not have the chance to restrain this girl. A wave of energy that could freeze all energy came from her body. This wave is very similar to the one I felt when I first entered this city. Did it come from her? Fafnir pondered that in her heart. She felt like her plan at the capital was about to be ruined. At the same time, she became more curious about Watson, the top genius. If Nia had such a strength, how powerful was Watson? Even if he could not capture the #1 genius and use him to threaten King Landhar III, Fafnir could at least take a look at that person to satisfy her curiosity. Since you are so eager, then I'll take you to the palace to meet Watson. Kiana revealed a generous smile and turned to walk toward the palace. As a princess, the etiquette lessons she had received since she was young made her appear calm no matter who she faced. The scene caused the dragons to nod their heads and follow her. Nia left as well. After a short while, Fafnir and the others arrived at the palace. Father, I'm back. Kiana rushed into the embrace of King Landhar III. Kiana, I heard that you've been in the Royal Academy all day today. Do you like the feeling of going to school? If that's the case, I can arrange for you to enter the Royal Academy to study with Watson. He patted Kiana's head. A trace of kindness appeared on King Landhar III's face. His gaze landed on Nia, who was following beside Kiana, and his eyes flickered. I didn't expect Nia to be here. You should change your clothes. The banquet will begin soon. I need to chat with the guests now. Yes, father. Knowing that King Landhar III was going to chat with Fafnir and the others about something important, Kiana did not dare disturb him. She left with Nia, Dragon King of the Dragon Clan. Lady Fafnir, I am truly honored by your arrival. King Landhar III welcomed the three dragons with a smile on his face. King Landhar III, put away your hypocritical act. You should be very clear about the purpose of our visit. You killed one of our dragons, and you only gave me some platinum-tier weapons. King Landhar III, it seems like you do not respect me at all. Fafnir snorted coldly. Lady Fafnir, I have my own difficulties. It's all the fault of someone from the Holy Dragon Tavern. They thought it was a wild dragon and killed it. I've already severely punished those people. Lady Fafnir, don't be angry. Since the matter has already happened, what we need to do now is to solve the problem. If you're not satisfied with the platinum-tier weapons I gave you earlier, you can restate your conditions. No matter what it is, I'll fulfill whatever I can. They accidentally killed a dragon from the Dragon Clan? Fafnir snorted coldly in her heart. The weakest dragon had platinum-tier strength. How could someone from a mere tavern in the kingdom be able to kill them? At the very least, the kingdom would need to send a few platinum-tier elites to kill any of those dragons. It was obviously not an accident. Instead, the kingdom was deliberately showing off its strength. If that's the case, A thought flashed through Fafnir's mind, and her eyes filled with killing intent. Your Majesty, is the steak to be grilled until it's medium or well done? A man's voice echoed, and a burly man in an apron walked out from a corner of the palace. He wiped his hands on the apron. I'll have to ask our guests. What will it be? King Landhar III asked Fafnir and the others with a smile. I want it well done. As for Rem and Olenna, just give them medium. Fafnir was stunned for a while before she replied to him. She was shocked to see the man who looked like a chef. He exuded a platinum-tier aura. Since when did platinum-tier elites become chefs in the palace? She thought that she knew the Holy Dragon Kingdom very well. There were not many platinum-tier elites in the Holy Dragon Kingdom, but if they counted the Dragon Knights, then the number would double. It was precisely because of the Dragon Knights that the Holy Dragon Kingdom could always stand in the continent's center and occupy the most luxurious lands. However, when she saw that a platinum-tier elite was just a chef, she felt that something was wrong. Did they have so many platinum-tier elites in the Holy Dragon Kingdom that some of them became chefs? Did they kill and cook the dragons because they no longer needed them? Something is not right. Perhaps the human king knew I was coming, so he deliberately made a platinum-tier elite pretend to be a chef to show off to me. It's not impossible for him to do that. Fafnir was pondering in her heart when she heard the king say, Basher, you've heard the requests of our distinguished guests, right? Don't disappoint them. Then, he arranged for the chef to leave. Not long after the chef left, a beautiful girl with snow-white hair and a face that looked like she was from the Winter Nation walked over to them. King Landhar III, I'll participate in the cooking this time. I have a lot of potions that can improve the taste and nutrition of food. Anyway, I have nothing to do now, so I might as well find something to do. Fafnir's expression turned stiff again. Aren't you from the Winter Nation? Your name is Ash? Am I seeing things? Why is the Winter Nation's princess here? Fafnir knew Ash because other kingdoms had tried to sign a contract with the Dragon Clan to nurture Dragon Knights as well. Still, in the end, the Holy Dragon Kingdom had offered the most favorable conditions to monopolize the training of Dragon Knights. The Winter Nation had once sent a representative to talk to Fafnir. At that time, the representative was Ash. Most of the dragons were fire elemental creatures, so they could not survive in the cold. Why is the Winter Nation's princess here? Have these two kingdoms joined forces? Fafnir could not help but feel chaotic in her mind. To the dragons, it was better for the human kingdoms to be divided than unified. The humans could crush the other races as there were too many of them. It would be difficult for the humans to fight against the Dragon Clan when they were divided. She had seen too much information. First, she saw two geniuses who were not number one. Each of them was very powerful. She also saw King Landhar III treating a platinum-tier elite as a chef. Even the dragon race did not have such luxury. Usually, the elites in the dragon race were the rulers. Only the elderly, the sick, and the disabled would serve other dragons. At that moment, the power displayed by the Holy Dragon Kingdom was no weaker than that of the dragon race. If the number of their elites were even more significant than that of the dragon race, the result would be unimaginable. You know me? Sidi turned her head. She was in Ash's body, but she was still a goddess. I think you look familiar too. If I remember correctly, you should be the guardian spirit of the dragon race, the one who controls metal and fire throne among the 8 dragon kings under the dragon god, who has been showing off to us. He said that the dragon clan members have a longer lifespan than humans and that their strong strength leads to the stability of their beliefs. That's great. I also want to absorb the beliefs of the dragon clan, but unfortunately, it couldn't be passed on to other races. Sidi sighed, and the voice behind him became softer. Miss Ash, what did you say? Fafnir was stunned. The girl in front of her should be the person she had met before, but she sounded different. She also felt a power that made her afraid. She had only felt similar power from the dragon god that she believed in. The dragon god was the god that the dragon race believed in. The entire dragon race only believed in that one god. The dragon god was a powerful existence in the starlight tier. It could not stay in the mortal world. As one of the 8 dragon kings under the dragon god, Fafnir was close to 1,000 years old. Her strength was close to the peak of the diamond tier. Due to the dragon race's extremely powerful body structure, even if she was only at the peak of the diamond tier, she could still unleash the power equivalent to a starlight tier elite. Under such circumstances, Ash still made her feel fear, which clearly presented the girl's power. It made her think of only one possibility. King Landhar III, Miss Ash is. That's right, it's exactly what you think. Even a high and mighty god would occasionally want to relax. Don't tell anyone about this. King Landhar III raised a finger to his lips and smiled mysteriously. Fafnir suppressed the shock in her heart and thought of the purpose of her visit. I heard that your majesty had organized a competition a few days ago and selected quite a few geniuses. Congratulations. I wonder who the #1 genius is. Can we meet him? Of course, but before that, I'll take you to see something good first. Fafnir and her 2 subordinates followed the king and saw the huge throne in front of them. Fafnir was shocked, too. This throne gives off such a powerful aura. It's as powerful as a living god. What is this? This is a treasure that I just obtained. It's a starlight tier item. King Landhar III went past Fafnir and the others and arrived at the throne. A crown immediately appeared on King Landhar III's head, and a feather coat covered his body. His figure was blurred, and only a pair of eyes that overlooked the world were left. What do you think of my throne? Soldiers comparable to gods appeared beside King Landhar III. The number of the God King's army was even greater than when Watson had summoned them. There were about 20 people. 20 God King's army soldiers guarded King Landhar III, making him look like the king of the gods. The 3 people there could not breathe at all. Initially, they were there to avenge their dead dragon compatriots. However, they had not had the chance to take revenge after entering the capital. Everything they had experienced made them feel at a loss. It felt like they could die if they dared to say anything unfavorable to the Holy Dragon Kingdom, let alone avenge their fellow dragons. King Landhar III, you brought us here just to show us these? Fafnir forced a smile. She felt like she had miscalculated. She had only brought 2 guards with her because she thought she was powerful enough. It seemed like she was in danger instead. Of course not, Lady Fafnir. I have a lot to show you, but this is only a small part. King Landhar III left the throne with a faint smile and clapped his hands. Watson, have you changed your clothes? Yes. Watson walked out from the depths of the bedroom. 2 maids followed beside him, constantly smoothing the wrinkles on his clothes with their hands. They had also waxed his hair to make it smooth. Watson was not used to that. His movements were as stiff as a robot. He finally arrived in front of King Landhar III with great difficulty and revealed a tired expression. Your Majesty, are these the distinguished guests you mentioned? It turned out to be a few dragons. Watson looked at the 3 dragon women in front of him curiously. That was the first time he had seen a dragon in human form. It was said that the dragon's human form was magic specially created by the dragon race to facilitate communication with humans. Watson had the golden flash and charcoal, the death omen star dragon, but because they were not orthodox dragons, they would not be able to transform into human forms. If charcoal and the golden flash could master the ability to transform into human form, what would they look like? When the dragons transformed into their human form, they could also transform into different forms. Watson imagined what charcoal and the golden flash would look like when they mastered the ability. Little did he know that the 3 dragon women were sizing him up nervously. They looked puzzled. That was especially so for Fafnir. As a powerful dragon at the peak of Diamond Tier, she could feel the Diamond Tier power contained within Watson's body. That power was only slightly stronger than the 3rd genius she had met before. It was far from being comparable to the 2nd genius. How did such a person become the #1 genius? As if he saw through Fafnir's thoughts, the corners of King Landhar III's mouth curled upward. Lady Fafnir, do you have any doubts as to why Watson is the kingdom's #1 genius? Let Watson show you, and you will understand. I wonder if you have any worthless tools that you don't need. I do. Olenna hesitated for a moment before standing up. She took 2 earrings from her ears and placed them in her palm. This is a gift given to me by another dragon when I was young. Its name is Blue Firestorm, and it can summon powerful firestorms. It's a weapon at the peak of Gold Tier. Is this okay? Yes. King Landhar III nodded. He took the 2 earrings and handed them to Watson. Come, Watson, show our guests your talent. I got it. He mocked King Landhar III in his heart. If King Landhar III wanted to establish his power before the dragon race, he could have done it himself. Why did he have to make use of Watson? He just wanted Watson to work for him. Even though he ridiculed him, he still activated the fusion system on the earrings. Fusion system, activate. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing 2 peak gold tier earrings. You have obtained a platinum tier blue comet earring. As the sound of a system notification rang in their ears, the 2 rather old earrings in Watson's hands turned into rays of light and collided, turning into a blue jade the size of a thumb. It contained a platinum luster. Then, a powerful platinum tier aura suddenly appeared. The scene stunned the 3 guests, turning 2 gold tier peak earrings into a platinum tier item in an instant. How is this possible?